Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. So happy to be back with you. Happy to be back in the U.S. of A. on a game day for the U.S. men's national team. We're extending the patriotic weekend after 4th of July fireworks shows. Hopefully you had a good family barbecue and some fun yesterday. And now we get to tack on one more day where we are all U.S. men's national team fans. We are all defenders of the decision to reverse the red card of Flo and let him play. We are at full strength against Belgium, baby. Woo! Hey, all I know is that when it's USA versus Belgium in full strength, well, actually, I don't know much about that. I don't know that we have a long and storied rivalry as two great nations.
So I will say this, 2014, Belgium is the team that eliminated the U.S. with Kyle Beckerman, U.S. men's national team.
I'm still not over it, James.
Yeah, so in the round of 16. So we played Belgium in the exact same part of the tournament. You know, obviously there's one more knockout round game here, but the exact same round 12 years ago. So there's that history there. There was a friendly in March where Belgium just destroyed us 5-2.
Not that friendly, unfortunately.
Yeah, so there's maybe not a rivalry, but there's some history between these two teams.
I've been thinking about it every day for the last 12 years, the last time Belgium eliminated us.
I mean, that was the game famously around here anyway, that Kyle Beckerman did not get in the game and lose by a goal, and a lot of us around here were saying,
put him in, changes things.
Why don't you put the captain in the game? Why don't you put the RSL captain in the game?
I was actually I was worried that part of the narrative in this tournament was going to be, this team is struggling to score, this team is struggling for a little change of pace, this team is struggling to have somebody that's unpredictable, and so we would have all these reasons to be like griping against the omission of Diego Luna. So far, so good in the tournament, and you're certainly hopeful that doesn't rear its ugly head tonight. But man, what a fascinating week of sports. Look, a little inside baseball here. If you're gonna go to Wimbledon, right? If you're gonna take some days off for leisurely purposes, usually 4th of July week in sports is like you're kind of safe because there's not going to be a ton of crazy stuff going on. We had a ton of crazy stuff going on this past week. I'm like, man, I should probably phone into my own show or something. We had some fascinating results at Wimbledon. You had last night and on Saturday night two of the most memorable soccer games that all of us bandwagon fans have been able to see for, I don't know, ever. You had these incredible dramatic storylines of Cape Verde going toe-to-toe and slugging it out with mighty Argentina, with their 40-year-old goalkeeper flashing and having some incredible moments. I think there's a couple he would like back in that game against Argentina as well. You get, of course, a controversial red card taking Flo Balogun out of the game, or so we thought. And now, Team USA at the center of what is a controversial topic in world soccer, in FIFA football. Sepp Blatter, who is effectively like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, took to his social media and was just like, this is corrupt. The most corrupt official we have ever seen maybe in any sports organization, criticizing what FIFA is doing because, of course, there's a political bent to it. And now there's all of these like different ways that you can either...
And because he's not involved. Let's be honest about that.
And because nobody wrote him a big fat check.
Yeah.
Because this time there's no Qatari sultan giving him millions and millions of dollars to look the other way on things. And of course, it's put the United States, and specifically United States soccer, in kind of this like defensive posture, because while it's not without precedent, it is abnormal for a red card to be overturned, for the red card ruling to be suspended, and for the player who was kicked out of the last game to not have to sit out this game. Obviously, you get resets as you advance out of pool play into elimination games and so forth in World Cup soccer. But the reality of the situation is most of us, probably all of us, headed into the weekend thinking like, man, we're going to have to beat Belgium without arguably our best player in this tournament, the guy who's played the best in this World Cup tournament. We're going to have to get through without him. And, of course, the rallying cries, the next man up, the cliche stuff that you get in every sport, it was all there. Everyone was saying the right things. But you thought, oh, man, we're not going to have him. And instead, Oval Office makes a phone call. By the way, is this like the craziest run of White House influence on sports we have seen maybe ever? You have an actual sporting event on the White House lawn, guys walking out of the Oval Office for their fights, and a couple of weeks later, you got phone calls going to FIFA like, hey, what can we do about this? Allegedly. And FIFA being like, well, yeah, it was actually a bad call, which is where I think I certainly net out on this being like, it's actually hyper rare in sports that justice be served and that a correction be made on a BS call.
Let's just so everyone's clear on it. He's going to serve this 1-game suspension. They're just allowed to delay it a year. So it doesn't matter. It's a lot like how Brendan Sorsby was going to serve a 2-game suspension for Texas Tech. It's very Tom Brady Deflategate. We just caught you right now during the AFC Championship game, but you're not going to miss the Super Bowl. Don't worry about that. Cristiano Ronaldo, by the way, has benefited from this in this tournament. He was suspended for a red card, I believe it was. Anyway, I could be wrong on that, but he had a 3-match suspension, and FIFA decided to make it an immediate 1-match suspension. He only had one more friendly left before the World Cup. Portugal did. They said, okay, you're suspended for that friendly. You're going to serve the other 2 a year from now so that you don't miss the World Cup, right? So this is, like you said, not without precedent. It feels pretty unprecedented in this specific context, though.
Leo Messi. We've done this with Leo Messi, where Leo Messi has done stuff he's not supposed to do, but what you can't afford if you're FIFA, if you're MLS, if you're Champions League, if you're whoever, you can't afford on these big stages to have Leo Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo out. That's why that decision is made in their favor. Flo Balogun is not one of these guys.
He absolutely isn't, but
he's not a guy that you can't, like, if it was Harry Kane, if it was Haaland, if it was Messi, if it was Cristiano Ronaldo, if it's Kylian Mbappe, then this conversation is drastically different because everyone's just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, you can't, like, France without Mbappe, yikes.
Yeah.
Messi with Argentina without Messi, yikes. And people are like clamoring for a way to get that guy back in the game. And if a decision like this comes down, I think that a lot of us just kind of shrug our shoulders and we say, hey, LeBron James gets special treatment. Leo Messi gets special treatment. This one is different because and I think it elevates soccer by itself in the United States, where you're at the center of a controversy. And make no mistake, it is very much us versus the world. Already, it was kind of like, hey, the United States is doing a great job hosting this World Cup. There's a lot of kumbaya. There's a lot
cute
of, like,
story. You guys have
awesome.
Have a decent team this year,
Americans aren't so bad. And look, these guys, this plucky team, they're actually doing better than we thought they would. Holy cow, they got some scoring here. Wow, this Pochettino guy, he's really changed some things. We like this team all of a sudden. And now we're the bad guys. And now, I mean, I was watching in England, watching World Cup coverage in England, late night, your clock's all out of whack because you're overseas. We hit some Wimbledon. I'm watching 2 a.m, watching like their panel shows, right? Their studio shows, same backdrops, but just different people. And obviously a much more veteran, seasoned, culturally ingrained type of attitude towards soccer in England, right? And the coverage was different, and it was fascinating to watch. It was fascinating to see. They speak differently. Their cadence is different. The way that they criticize players and coaches and everything's a little bit different in the British broadcasting style. I flew back home before this ruling came down. I would be desperate to sit and watch the BBC coverage of this. Because this World Cup, while we have jumped on the bandwagon and suddenly it's the most meaningful thing in American sport, if we're being honest with ourselves, if this was happening in August or September, these stadiums would be half empty because all of us would be like, it's football season. It's American football season, right? Everyone else, this is their thing. They've all got their catchphrases. England beating Mexico last night was a scary, scary game for England. Tragic ending to this incredible World Cup for Mexico. Really tough to see. Shout out to our connoisseur media folks here in the building. I think probably a lot of people took the day off today to mourn, potentially. Mexico being ousted. USA being in this thing, and now USA being a team that everyone wants to see beat because of this controversy, changes the whole soccer thing in the United States. I already said this. This is a repetitive storyline on my show in the last couple of weeks. And I said this World Cup is going to change the way we relate to soccer in the United States of America. And it was true then from a purely positive, a purely fun standpoint. Now, this is the most American thing that we can jump on board with. Us against the world is a very, very American stance for competition. Michael Phelps, watching everybody else say, I cannot wait to beat the Americans, the arrogant Americans. I can't stand the American arrogance. And him retired from competition being like, I'm showing this to every member of the U.S. swimming team. I'm showing this to every member of the Olympic contingent, period. There's just something in it, right? And now Belgium and their football federation has put out some long word salad, just like, I can't believe this is happening. This is completely unfair. It's totally unprecedented. It's totally terrible. This is corrupt. This is stupid. No, Belgium, you don't want to play us at full strength.
Well, I'll say this too. Flo Balogun obviously is not a household name in world soccer. He's becoming one, I think, especially with this controversy. But even aside from this controversy, just with his play, he's starting to become one. But with the U.S. being the host country, that's why he gets the Ronaldo treatment. That's why he gets the Messi treatment. That's why he gets the Mbappe treatment, even though he is far less of a player than those incredible superstars. U.S. is the host country, and when the president of the United States makes a call to the president of FIFA, he has to listen, right? And I don't like the process. I don't like the, hey, I got cut from the team, so my dad yells at the coach kind of thing. None of us like that, but the call, the red card was unjust. It's been corrected, and I've heard a lot of people over the weekend say, in the last yesterday and this morning say, should there be an asterisk next to this if USA wins? Absolutely not.
First of all,
they are letting us field the team full strength. We win. We're gonna feel like it was a win whether this ruling happened or not. And that's how it should be.
Flo Balogun's name is now going to go down in the annals of sports history, one way or another, based on results tonight, whatever. I want a Balogun rule. I want a Balogun mulligan. I want this to exist in every sport where, especially from an ejection standpoint, where an unjust ejection, you've got the bat phone to the White House or the equivalent thereof, and you say, hey, that targeting penalty, that took Jonnu Hall out of the second half against BYU in a conference championship game. I need that reversed now. It's halftime. I need it reversed. I need him back in this game. I need the FIFA president to be manning that phone. Whoever is there that is willing to look at these things from a not letter of the law standpoint and spirit of the law, this thing where you're just like, man, that was a bad call. And we could live with that bad call because everyone else in sports has always had to live with these bad calls. And we could say that's just them's the breaks. That's just how it is. Or when this country is hosting the World Cup and is having an inflection point moment for the growth of our game, we could change this. We could reverse this decision. We could correct, dare I say correct? We could correct and right this wrong.
By the way, within their bylaws, they're allowed to, they say, suspend the discipline of a red card suspension for up to a year later in a probationary year. So it's not like FIFA. This is not FIFA corruption. What happened here? It's a bad look. It certainly calls into question why teams like Team USA were not able to appeal this suspension because it was overturned by VAR. I don't care. You should still have an appeals process. Hopefully that changes. It's a bad look, but it's not like the people calling this FIFA corruption. I'm like, are you serious? FIFA corruption is when the FBI arrested half the people in the building however many years ago.
Even if you call this FIFA corruption, where it is on the scale of FIFA corruption is like this tiny little blip on the radar.
So small.
It's tiny, but that's not what it is. You stated correctly. That's not what it is. And honestly, it could not be working out better for the FIFA broadcast.
Absolutely.
And they're hyper aware of that, by the way. Like, Jurgen Klopp was on the air, said, this is our game. This is our game. And they, referring to the Americans, referring to the president, referring to the FIFA, this is our game, and they shouldn't have any influence on this. That is exactly the kind of bulletin board material. I don't know if Mauricio Pochettino, because he's got some Argentine sensibilities, and I don't know what their relationship is with bulletin board material. That might be a very American thing. I'm not sure. But he's got somebody on that staff, right, who's telling him, look, just put all these quotes on the whiteboard.
Yeah, we need to use this. This is
Fire these
what
boys up.
Motivates Americans in sports.
And you know what? Go a step beyond that. This game's in Seattle. Put them on the Jumbotron and let the American fans boo it.
Put the video clip of Jurgen Klopp saying that.
Let it be us against the world. Let it be, we're coming off of a weekend, 250-year anniversary of this great country, right? You saw all of the commercials and you saw the Star-Spangled Banner everywhere, right? And the electric guitar national anthem and fireworks and people blowing their fingers off, hopefully not. And you're just like, America, man, hot dogs, apple pie, and don't you dare pit us against you, because when that happens, how did Toby Keith say it?
We'll put a boot in your...
We'll put a boot in your... This is the American way. Just let them run out to that tonight in Seattle.
Yeah,
that's it, man. I have never... I promise you, I have never been this fired up for a soccer game, and I don't think I ever will be again. Some of my best friends were playing for a high school state championship my senior year in soccer.
You didn't even bother to show up.
And I wasn't as fired up for that game as I am for this one. And those were people I know.
You did go.
Of course.
Okay. I was just making sure.
By the way, Jordan High won it. Go beat Diggers.
Let's go.
My guy. Shout out Clay Christensen.
2002 state championship.
2002 state championship.
Right.
Shout out Clay Christensen, whose number has since been retired in the annals of Jordan High history.
Legend. Clay Christensen. Put
Rubik's,
some respect on his name.
Yeah. Should have been on that U.S. men's national. I don't know.
Diego Luna, who? Clay Christensen.
This is for a casual observer who has jumped on the bandwagon. This is ideal.
Is perfect.
Because even if you haven't already climbed on, it is now your duty as an American to jump on board, because you're hearing the Germans, the French, the English, the Belgians
Germans
be like, this is corruption. You don't deserve this. Even if you win, you don't deserve it.
I can't
really?
even eat my waffle this morning. I am so upset.
Oh, really? The Royal Belgian Football Federation, first of all. Royal. As soon as you throw out Royal, you lost the American folks.
Pretentious. We are anti-tyrants around here, all right? Allegedly.
Our American royalty is usually just random pop stars and NFL football players. All right? That's our royalty. We choose. It's a meritocracy here. Not a bunch of inbred weirdos with oversized ears. All right? Royalty in the United States of America is earned, sort of, but mostly earned.
Allegedly.
Okay? Don't give me your Royal Belgian. We know about the legacy of the Belgian royals, okay?
So
it's strip mining the Congo for all of its resources, all right? I don't want to hear from you, Belgium, on any kind of corruption. What we got here was a red card that never should have been issued. And even if it's all the way down in the fine print of the bylaws, it's there. You can suspend the enforcement of these penalties by any means necessary. That's how America tries to win. We'll do it dirty. We'll do it clean. Oh, there's a technicality based on a tiny little fine print issue here. Let me call my lawyer.
Have you ever heard of a man named Jeffrey Kessler and the allegedly honorable Judge Kenneth Curry? That's how we do things around here. It doesn't feel right most of the time, a lot of the time, but hey, what, like you say, any means necessary. A couple of things. 4th of July parade. First one with the boy. It was incredible.
Okay. Did he enjoy, were there like Tootsie Rolls being thrown at him?
A bevy of the Fruities, that you get at the arcade as a prize, I believe
that those are much like the weird wax paper black and orange like peanut butter toffees that they're only available during the Fruity. They're only available during 4th of July parades. Those weird
or at your local arcade fun place.
There's an exclusivity to the availability of those candies.
Yeah, shout out to Fiesta Fun in St. George. That's where I always got my Fruities. Playing the arcade games. But I bring that up to say a high school band or it was a high school football team on a float, I think. They were playing, courtesy of the red, white, and blue, the unedited version. Yeah. So they I'm like, high school putting a boot in your ass. All right, let's go. It's
a word that has been decriminalized. It's like it's the verbal marijuana. Okay,
yeah.
It's like you can say ass now. Nobody even cares.
By the way, speaking of ass, we have the Big Ass Stadium tour too. Tickets to give away later in the show. Post Malone, we'll talk about later. But yeah, that word's gonna be said a lot today. But my wife and I look at each other like, all right, high school football team. And then you're just dead on about how this kind of thing is what galvanizes us every time, especially in sports. But we've seen it in a lot less often in politics and other social dynamics. Whenever we sling mud at each other all the time, okay? But it's like we're allowed to say we suck. You say we suck. Then it's us against all of you, and we're going to take you on. And that this is the exact ammo that us as a fan base of U.S. men's national team need to be absolutely fired up, and you hope that the players will be even more fired up for this game.
This is the soccer equivalent of the Holy War from 2 years ago when Utah fans were like, that is not a penalty. And BYU fans, every BYU fan under the sun, there were 85-year-olds making Twitter accounts for the first time in their life just so they could post grainy cell phone video of that was definitely a hold and the flag was the correct call, right? it's this galvanizing moment where it's just like, that shouldn't work out for you that way. Oh, yes, it should. Oh, no, it shouldn't. Oh, yes, it should. Oh, no, it shouldn't. Oh, yes, it should. And we get to watch it play out tonight on the pitch, and the soccer gods will decide whether it was just or not based on who wins tonight. And
the soccer god Flo Balogun is going to get a hat trick tonight.
If that happens, by the way, if Flo Balogun is like man of the match tonight, then the controversy ramps up even further, and suddenly soccer is a real American sport for the first time in my life, because we will, even if you hate the principle of mom or dad calling the head office and being like, I need my kid to not be in trouble for this anymore, even if that just makes your skin crawl, you're like, you know what? In this case, I watched the red card be issued, and it was not correct. There was a grave injustice done there. And Flo Balogun, by the way, I want to make sure, as I rant, I want to make sure that we give credit where it's due to that young man, because he handled the whole thing with ultimate class. And he was asked about, hey, you weren't real emotional about that. During the game, post-game, a lot of people on the world soccer stage expect the young American to throw a fit when things don't go his way. When there's a controversial call that goes against you, right? Demonstrative protest, right? Tantrum thrown, whatever.
John McEnroe, which I believe this happened at Wimbledon, that you cannot be serious, yelling at the chair umpire. Yeah.
There's an expectation that is how you're going to react. And he handled the whole thing with class. And then he was asked about it. Why did we see you kind of like take this lying down? And he was like, I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of young people, especially in the U.S., tuning into soccer for the very first time. And I want to set an example. I'm paraphrasing. I want to set an example for them that you react properly, even if it's not in your favor. I was like, man, what a mature, incredible, admirable way to handle this.
Can we get him to make a speech to the NBA Players Association? My goodness.
Get Flo Balogun on the phone, James. I'm sure he's not busy today. Let's get him on the phone. I want to talk to him about this. It's one of those things, again, you take the whole package, right, and extricate, for the sake of the argument today, there's one figure involved in this whose name got put into this thing that is as polarizing as anyone else in our country right now. But if that person, all they did was make a phone call and really, let's be honest, probably didn't even watch the red card be issued, probably didn't even watch the game, was just doing the thing, like going through the motion. What happens is FIFA gets to look at it and say, you know what? It's abnormal in sports that we wash out a bad decision, that we right a wrong. But today we're going to do that, and we're going to take the bullets associated with it. It's pretty admirable, dare I say it, from FIFA's perspective, although the admiration goes away when you realize how beneficial this ends up being for them. More ratings, more conversation, more revenue, more gear sold, more everything, because it is now, this is not just a sports topic anymore. This is number one front page news on BBC News, not BBC Sport, BBC News, CNN News, whatever they're playing in Belgium and South Africa and France and everywhere else, whatever those channels are.
The Royal Belgian News Service.
It's front page stuff, and we get to watch it play out tonight. You said there's breaking news?
Yeah.
What's the breaking news?
So the breaking news is, so Belgium, you probably heard OC, and I know our listeners saw this as well. They appealed the decision to allow Flo Balogun to play. That appeal has been denied by FIFA. So that we already knew that was going to happen, but it's now official. It's breaking news.
The appeal goes to the organization that already.
Yeah,
that's kind of silly.
It's kind of like, and you can't listen. If you're Belgium, you absolutely at least get it on the books that, hey, we're gonna do what we can to fight against this, even if you know you're gonna lose. That's also the American way. We mentioned the litigation kind of thing. You still make the lawsuit even if you're not gonna win the lawsuit, right? I also wanted to say this. Mark Ogden, ESPN.com, who I did not know about until I read this article, he reacting to this reversal from FIFA allowing Phil Balogun to play. He said, no one wins from this, not even the U.S. men's national team. I vehemently disagree, Mark Ogden. When your best player is allowed to play, you win from that decision. So it bothers me that people are wanting to like make this, in America especially, wanting to, because they didn't like the process of how this went, how they got to this decision, they want to manufacture a way to not feel as good about beating Belgium today. Like just you can throw that in the garbage heap with me, okay? Are you rooting against America or are you rooting for America in this game? It should be that simple.
Now a lot of people rooting against America, which is totally fine because that's when we do our best work as a nation. We're just getting rolling here on a Monday edition of the Sean O'Connell Show. Lauren Beck is going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. You can guess what we'll be talking about. Gordy Chiesa, man, there's a lot going on with the whole Utah Jazz. Walker Kessler is headed to the Lakers. That also broke while we were off for the holiday break. Sarah Todd is going to join us to give her thoughts on those efforts as well. So heavy local influence on the show today.
Little Darren Peterson versus Cam Boozer action tonight in the Salt Lake City Summer League as well, as long as they don't sit them out, which
Darren
let's
Peterson,
hope they play.
You guys, spoiler alert, good basketball player, in case you were wondering.
He was incredible on Saturday.
Oh, my goodness. Big 12 Media Days coming tomorrow and on Wednesday. That coverage is going to be brought to you by Beer Bar, Murdoch Auto Group, the Utah Toyota dealers, Citron Cooperman, Handy and Handy, Mountain Home Services, Bud Light, Valley Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, Aladdin Industries, your Utah Skylight Velux dealer. Lauren Beck next to talk about, you guessed it, U.S. men's national team versus Belgium on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in, Lauren Beck. World Cup Insider for our purposes today, brought to you by Beer Bar. Best place in Salt Lake City to go watch the World Cup games. It'll be a packed watch party tonight. Get down there early if you have intentions to catch U.S. versus Belgium in the round of 16 starting at 6 p.m. on Fox. You might want to head over right after work. Lauren Beck, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm great. How are you, Sean?
Doing awesome. Did you have a fun 4th of July?
I did. It was pretty chill 4th. Just kind of hung out at home most of the day. Sent my toddler off to a parade with the in-laws and hung out at home with the newborn. So, yeah, kind of nice.
Nice. All right. Big decision came down over 4th of July weekend from FIFA that the red card for Flo Balogun, the suspension, would be suspended, meaning he gets to play, will be available for the game against Belgium. Obviously, this is controversial for everyone who's not an American soccer fan, but as someone who's followed this team closely and followed the sport so closely, where do you come out on it? Because it's not wholly unprecedented, but this is as high profile of a decision as FIFA is ever going to make, it seems.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to watch people react to, because I understand why people are upset that it's happened the way that it has, why Belgium is upset about it. But at the same time, this outrage didn't exist when FIFA gave the same ruling in favor of Cristiano Ronaldo before the World Cup started. He had a 3-game suspension. They suspended his suspension as they did with Balogun, and no one's been talking about it. It's been a nothing burger for this World Cup for Ronaldo to be playing. But suddenly, because it's the U.S., because it's Balogun, because Donald Trump is saying, yes, I made a phone call, it's becoming a very big thing around this World Cup. And I just think it's so interesting. I understand, again, the outrage of it, but at the end of the day, I haven't seen anybody disagree that this was the correct or agree that this was the correct red card given in this game against Balogun. So I think it's fair to have this outcome, to have him eligible for this game, because it was not the correct decision. VAR was not used correctly to give this red card. But I get both sides a little bit. But if you're going to be this mad about Balogun, then you've got to be upset about Ronaldo as well. And we're just not seeing the same outrage. So for me, it's let's move on.
I don't think we'll get another version of this in this tournament, but like for the sake of a hypothetical, let's say that Erling Haaland for Norway ends up with a similar red card, right? Is given kind of a bad red card, and so he's supposed to be out for the next round. I think a lot of people, their response to that, and obviously he's a much bigger name and a much more important player on the international stage than Flo Balogun is, but I think that a lot of people's response, even the neutral, non-Norway sports fans, would just be like, you can't have that guy out on that call. Like, we would probably agree if it was the exact same call against a player like that it would be all right for FIFA to take at least a second look at it and to, maybe overturn something, especially that came from VAR. So I guess the requirement is we keep that energy if it does happen again for anyone else. But is it not in the best interest of not just soccer, but every sport, to make sure that officiating is done correctly? And if you have to go back retroactively to correct a mistake, shouldn't we do that?
No, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the other talking points is FIFA has said, we will not be taking back these red cards. It's not part of the protocol for the World Cup. It's not a thing we're doing, but we will suspend a suspension and kind of put you on probation. And that's, it's kind of opened the floodgates in a way. I mean, as you said, you would hope that there'd be consistency, and there's already calls for that. England had a player get a red card last night, Gerald Kwanzaa. There's people talking about submitting an appeal for that. France has submitted an appeal for Elise's yellow card against Paraguay. So it's kind of opened the floodgates in terms of, I'm sure that the appeals, I mean, you're appealing as much as you can anyway to get these cards removed in these situations, but I'm sure that FIFA's disciplinary committee, which it's supposed to be an independent committee, by the way, is just going to be busier than ever at this point because the whole world is talking about this situation, as it should be. But yeah, as you said, you have to keep the energy up across the board if this is what we're wanting. But I think from an American perspective, the conversation seems to be, well, we want to face you when you're at your best. So why don't you want to face us when we're at our best in Belgium? And again, I understand Belgium's perspective here, but why wouldn't you want to face a team at their best when it's going to be the most competitive? It's going to try you the most. So yeah, it's a shame that the situation has gone down the way that it has because it does raise some eyebrows and some questions. But at the end of the day, I think it is the right decision. And hopefully it raises the correct questions in how VAR handles situations and the images and the slow motions that they show to the referee during the game to reach those decisions.
All right, let's take the political and the controversial out of this, and let's just talk about this from an X's and O's standpoint. Balogun's presence in this game makes how big of a difference for Team USA?
I think at this point, it hypes the team to have him out there. I know Belgium beat the U.S. 5-2 earlier this year. It was not a good game for the U.S. I think this is a very different matchup between these two teams at this point in time. Belgium is not a team that I personally am that worried about. But the boost now that I think it would have been important under normal circumstances, no red card, no controversy, to have Balogun in this game. But the boost that it's now given the U.S. to have him available for this match, I do think that it changes with the circumstances around the whole situation. But he's been so massive for the United States in this World Cup. I mean, you can't understate or overstate, excuse me, what he's done and how important he's been. The 3 goals that he's provided, he's a danger man, and that's why Belgium doesn't want him out there on that field. But it's a great opportunity. Belgium, widely regarded as one of the best teams in the world, despite not having actually won anything with all that merit. So Belgium's kind of a conundrum for me. They've always, the last few years, they've had the talent, they've had the big names, but they haven't done anything with that, and they just stay sitting near the top of the FIFA rankings year in and year out. But I don't know. I wasn't worried about this Belgium team without Flo. I'm less worried about it now.
Lauren Beck is our guest here, talking a little World Cup soccer, coverage of the World Cup here on ESPN 700, brought to you by our friends at Beer Bar, your number one spot to watch all World Cup games. Get over there early if you're planning on doing so tonight as USA takes on Belgium in the round of 16. Around the World Cup, we have seen, again, some of the big stars. They're just shining. Messi with more great games, goal and assist the other night in an incredible match against Cape Verde. And obviously Erling Haaland with 2 goals. Kylian Mbappe, he's upsetting people, but he's unbelievable. The overall tournament, the soccer that we're seeing, where are you finding surprises? Where is it going exactly the way you thought it would?
No, I think there's definitely been some surprises, especially when you look at the Argentina going into extra time with Cape Verde and the goals that they were scoring in that game as well. Absolutely incredible story. I was really torn on that one because I did want Argentina to go through, but it's hard not to cheer for a really true underdog in the World Cup, especially. But I think for the most part, going the way you would expect. A couple outliers here and there. The England-Mexico game last night was just as chaotic as I hoped it would be. I think some people were surprised with Norway and how good they have been. But when you have Erling Haaland, the man's a machine. As much as I dislike the club that he plays for, you have to love the man because he's just so delightful on and off the field. He's so funny to watch. Just a great character and a great goal scorer. But Brazil hasn't been the Brazil that you would think and hope they would be for a very long time. So I think for the most part, this has been going the way I want it. I thought it would be. But as you mentioned, Mbappe, Messi, Haaland, all I mean, and even Harry Kane now on 6 goals for England. It's quite the race. I mean, you look at the players on 4 goals, and that normally is enough to be in the Golden Boot conversation in this World Cup. The 7 that Mbappe, Messi, and Holland are sitting on is absolutely incredible. It's been very fun, a very fun World Cup. There was a lot of controversy around expanding it to 48 teams, but I think it's been one of the most fun World Cups we've had in recent years.
I am definitely guilty of being prisoner to the moment on a lot of things, but this really does feel like a moment, especially with this Balogun controversy and whatnot, where, I don't know, soccer, the relationship America has with soccer, I think will change. I think is going to change after this. Of course, we don't know until we get to after this, but does it feel that way for you?
Yeah, it does. I think there's, the World Cup is always a big deal, but when it's happening anywhere else in the world, it's not going to be as central. But with the focus really being on the United States and having so many host cities in games here, I think that average sports fan is a lot more tuned in. And I think that the thing with the Balogun red card is where you lose some fans, and people, there's a lot of suggestions on how to quote unquote fix some rules in soccer, just as I'm sure a lot of people outside of the United States have suggestions for American football or basketball or things like that. So it's definitely bringing in more conversation and more fans, and it's really fun to see, because soccer has been the highest growing sport in the United States for a good number of years at this point, but this will boost it. And I'm curious to see what the leagues in this country, NWSL and MLS, are able to do with this boost, because it will exist. I mean, people I've never talked about soccer with before are talking to me about soccer, and it's just been really fun to see how many people are locked into this World Cup.
There's another game today that probably would have been, or probably is, just as meaningful, just as important, just as much of a feature for the average world soccer fan, that is being overshadowed now, because of the U.S. controversy. But the day game, the afternoon game, how do you see that one going?
I think this is going to be Spain. Portugal has a lot of really good pieces, but I think this goes Spain's direction. Both teams have been okay throughout the tournament. I haven't been overly impressed. I know that sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but I haven't been overly impressed with Spain. I think they've done what they've needed to do in this tournament so far. The game against Austria was maybe the first time that I saw them and went, okay, this is maybe getting right on the right track for them. Portugal, again, a lot of really big names, a good win, a controversial win against Croatia in the last round, but kind of struggled through the group stage a bit. I think this is going to be Spain. I'm very interested to see how these guys match up, because like I said, I think Portugal's been about where I would expect them to be, but Spain, I think, has been underperforming a little bit, and they're the reigning European champs. So I think this could be a very interesting matchup, but I think we're going to see Spain go through on this 1:00 game.
We'll be watching it closely. If you want to get to Texas today, if you can hop on a flight now, tickets are available for as low as $1,400. At that price, you can't afford not to go.
My parents are in Texas actually right now in the Dallas area, and they looked at tickets. They did find some for $1,100. I don't know if they're going. We've kind of been nudging them to do it, but I don't know if they will.
So we talked about this because Big 12 Media Days are tomorrow and Wednesday in Frisco, Texas, right around the corner.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, oh, there's an elimination game the day before. Maybe we should fly down early. I don't think we could have got the tickets either way, but man, it's a little FOMO on this one. Portugal, Spain, I think, is going to be a heck of a match. And obviously tonight, USA, Belgium, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but USA gets through?
Yes. No, you can definitely put words in my mouth on that one. I'm feeling confident in this U.S. team tonight.
It's great to hear from you and that delightful little bundle of joy I can hear in the background. So
Yes.
I know it's not easy to juggle the two. Appreciate you doing so. Thanks for your time, Lauren.
Of course. Thanks, Essie. Have a good one.
Lauren Beck. Little World Cup talk brought to you by our friends over at Beer Bar. That is an overlooked thing about the Flo Balogun conversation today. This might be Cristiano Ronaldo's last ever World Cup game.
That's a good point. He's about to turn 42.
He said this is his last World Cup. He had initially told people, you know what, I'm not gonna decide until after this World Cup is over. Maybe he did a little film study on this Spain squad. Maybe he's looking at his own Portugal team and realizing, man, this is going to be a tough out today. And perhaps he wants the flowers that his incredible career would justify. He's already played in a bunch of them. This is his 6th World Cup and his final one. He's made that declaration. It's effectively a retirement announcement on this level. Neymar did the same thing last night after Brazil exited. So you're seeing kind of this crop of megastars that are all in the mid to late 30s to early 40s come up on that decision. And there's an understanding for a lot of people that this is Messi's last World Cup. Although I was watching that Cape Verde game the other night, and I'm watching again the English broadcast. And I don't know if they mentioned this on the American broadcast, but Messi had scored before his 35th birthday. He had scored 7 World Cup goals. After he turned 35, he has doubled that total.
So as of last World Cup, he had 7, and now he's
isn't that insane?
He's somehow, in some ways, gotten better than he was when he was at the top of the soccer world, and a lot of people still believe he is at the top. Like it's incredible, the longevity, and he had until the final 2 goals of that game, he was still the only Argentine player to score.
That's right.
In the World Cup through all 3 group stage games and a knockout round. And then finally, a couple of his teammates joined the party, helped him seal that win over Cape Verde.
One goal which he assisted, by the way, on the corner
yeah,
kick.
an assist. So he's had a part in all but 1 goal.
Yes.
Also, in the World Cup so far for Argentina.
I should have recorded it with my phone, because that first goal that he had on the crazy long pass, the touch with the left foot, and then he elevates it over Vizino and gets the first goal of that match. I'm not exaggerating. The British broadcast gushed about that thing for the next 35 minutes of the game. It was insane. And the best part of it was that whoever the color analyst is on their broadcast was Scottish and just had the most difficult Scottish brogue to understand. So it's just them just gaga over particularly the first touch of the Messi goal, corralling that long pass with his left foot. And he's trying to describe how difficult that is. And you can understand about every third word, and they just won't stop. I'm like, man, Messi could become the king of England if he wanted to. That's how much they love him over there.
That's incredible. And by the way, how about what's his face, the Cape Verde guy who gets the equalizer goal in extra time and goes into the stands? Like what a moment that was.
Okay, I am so disappointed in everyone in the stands in that moment. If you go back and watch, first of all, he kicks that ball not believing he's going to score.
Absolutely.
He was more surprised than anybody that thing went in. He's going nuts, right? He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to celebrate. And he runs over into the stands. And instead of celebrating with him, enjoying it, embracing it, everyone was so shocked that he was trying to climb into the stands. They're like, whoa, go, turn around, go back.
What
are you doing?
The bearded guy who no doubt was some kind of FIFA official or arena official was bug-eyed, get back down there.
And the poor guy's like standing there. I think he's looking for his wife, his girlfriend, whoever. He's just
Whoever it was that he hugged at the
like,
end there. Yeah.
There's nobody celebrating with him. I'm like, no, the appropriate reaction there is you mob the guy who just scored the equalizer and put you on the same plane as Argentina. You're freaking Cape Verde. That was crazy. Anyway, we've had some unbelievable moments in this World Cup. And we're only going to get more. Can't wait to talk about it for the rest of the tournament. Take a quick one here. Gordy Chiesa is joining us at the top of hour number 2. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Well, welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy Chiesa is going to join us at the top of hour number 2 to talk all the developments in the basketball world. Of course, we will not have Gordy on tomorrow because we are going to be giving you a full day's coverage at Big 12 Media Days from the Star in Frisco, Texas. BYU is on the docket for tomorrow. Utah will be on Wednesday, but we'll be all up and down the Big 12 and doing our best. It'll be myself and Spence Checketts and an entire contingent of dignitaries from the conference, from the other teams, and, of course, athletes and such.
And Utah fans, even though Utah is not, and Morgan Scalley and company are not going to be on hand for day one. Day one is the time when we hear from Brett Yormark on the podium. Certainly lots of reason to tune in to hear the conference level guys. I'm sure he's going to get some questions about Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech, which should be interesting to hear him answer those.
I am actually – so I don't want every conversation all week long to be about that, but I am very curious for the Big 12 kind of company line. I'm curious about the Cincinnati company line because they need to be asked about it as well. And, of course, how is Texas Tech going to put this behind them? Because this is the time you can do it. This Big 12 Media Day is when you can say, look, here's the last thing I'm going to say about it. I'm going to answer all of your questions about this. And after today, we're done. We're not speaking about it ever again. This is the event that you should do that you can do that. Now, I have no trust that Texas Tech is going to handle it correctly because we've seen how they've handled the process to this point. It's been an embarrassment for them. It's been terrible. Like Cody Campbell, bring them all and just say, take your bullets right now. A bunch of people are going to have criticisms. They're going to have questions. And just take your medicine while we're here in Frisco. They'll publish their articles. You don't have to read them. And then when we get to football season, we'll be talking about football. And yes, some sort of like after effects will come up if your quarterback plays well or doesn't play well, or Will Hammond takes longer to get back from the injury and the surgery or whatever. But air all the grievances now. Let it be done. That's what Texas Tech needs to do. If they don't allow their coaches to talk about it, if they don't allow their players to talk about it, if they don't allow the athletic director to talk about it, it would be a mistake, in my opinion. So I think the conference will have told them, like, just this is the last thing. Get it out of the way now, and then we'll all move on together. Because I will put it to bed after this. Sorsby is not playing in the CFL. He is not playing in the NFL. He is not playing in NFL Europe for the Rhine Thunder. Not possible, by the way. He's not playing in the UFL. Brendan Sorsby has been informed, and his lawyers and he have all agreed, like, all right, we're entering next year's draft. NFL draft. I'm ready to put it to bed, but I want it to be handled correctly by Texas Tech at Big 12 Media Days. Rice-Eccles Stadium, July 28th. Let me start that over. Rice-Eccles Stadium, July 28th. Post Malone is taking over. Jelly Roll will be with him. It's the Big Ass Stadium Tour 2. Tune in for topical trivia around 1:45. We will have a pair of tickets for you. I'm going to make the questions really, really hard because my goal is to have an excess of tickets that I can then steal and take a bunch of my friends to this, which is frowned upon and probably actually illegal in many cases. But I'm not a nice person, so I might try to do it anyway.
Allegedly.
Post Malone, Jelly Roll, Rice-Eccles Stadium, July 28th. Big Ass Stadium Tour. Tickets given away today on the Sean O'Connell Show, right around 1:45. We'll take a break. Gordy Chiesa, when we return. I did not think that the Utah Jazz would willingly part ways with Walker Kessler, and that's exactly what happened. We'll talk about the trade with the Lakers. We'll talk about what it means for the Jazz. And my most important question is, have we just extended the rebuild? It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 2. Welcome in Gordy Chiesa. Conversations with our NBA guru brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Velux Skylights dealer here in the state of Utah. Gordy, I hope you had a happy 4th of July weekend. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Welcome back.
It's great to be back. There's something special about flying back on American soil on our nation's 250th birthday. It was a wonderful weekend. And a lot of stuff to talk about from when I was gone. The Utah Jazz and Walker Kessler are no longer in business together. Instead, Kessler will be a Laker. The Jazz get 2 first-rounders and 2 pick swaps for Walker Kessler. What do you think of the trade?
It was smart by the Jazz. The Jazz offered him a very tremendous contract, and they had a certain number which they weren't going to go over, and they didn't. Now, from the Lakers' point of view, they need a big man. They think that he's worth the numbers that they're taking. And so what the Jazz did right away, they pivoted and they re-signed Yusuf Nurkic for 2 years as almost like a stopgap. So you do like Kessler, you do like his potential, but again, Sean, it affects so much of the economics of other players you want to get. So that signals basically in Jazz basketball that they're going to re-sign for the extension Keontae George. So it's almost like a domino theory. So Lakers get a big guy, the Jazz pivot with Yusuf Nurkic, and the Jazz really did the right thing as far as economically with their team.
So we had all these visions of this, 3 towers in the front court, Lauri Markkanen and Triple J and Walker Kessler, and now we just have to place Yusuf Nurkic as the center in that lineup?
Yes, as far as that, or they could go Jaren Jackson as a starting 5. So it'll be interesting to see. So the question is that what did he do with Ace Bailey? That's the question philosophically, which is a good question to have. So the Jazz, they saw Keontae George is a point guard. Darren Peterson, tremendous talent. We'll go later on talking about him in Summer League, but he's really a guard, 2 guard. Then they go Ace Bailey at 3. I'm saying Larry Markkanen as a stretch 4, and then to start the game with Jaren Jackson as almost a stretch 5. Then you can match down, put in the game Yusuf Nurkic, then swing over Jaren Jackson at 4, and then put the rest of the lineup in with other guys. And so it evolves with Walker Kessler not being there. You could start Yusuf Nurkic, and then suddenly you're not going to probably not start Ace Bailey, probably. And that's really almost counterproductive as a young guy. You want him to start the game with other tremendous players also.
What are the Lakers doing? They have now tied up a massive chunk of their salary cap in Walker Kessler and Reeves. They don't have LeBron coming back, obviously. They don't have picks in like the next 7 years. What are the Lakers doing?
Okay, well, first, economically, they have tied in with their 3 main guys now, a total salaries, $475 million. The Lakers and those 3 guys, those are the total salaries that are out there right now. So the Lakers, they're trying to navigate where they moved on from LeBron. They had a good run, 8 years. LeBron played terrific for them, but now they want to start a new era. And so that's what they're attempting to do right now. And they added Walker Kessler, who, again, they believe that will help them as far as being a center of rim protection, because Luka Doncic is a non-defensive player, and Austin Reeves, who doesn't have the foot speed. And so remember now, they also added some guys that can score the ball for them. Colin Sexton off the bench, Jaden Harden who can score, Quentin Grimes can score. That will help them. And this young big guy, about 26 years old, Calavili from the Raptors. He has a really tremendous all-around game, almost like a playmaker as a big guy. So they pivoted as far as with LeBron and went with other guys. But now the pressure's on Walker Kessler. You're in L.A. There's no, waiting period. This is 5th year in the NBA. He has to produce. And that's what? Rebounding, shot blocking. And he's got to score the ball versus only being recipient scorer.
Gordy Chase, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things NBA and Utah Jazz. A very wise man once told me, Gordy, not to overreact to anything that we see or do not see in summer league play. But it's easy to forget that if you're a Jazz fan and you watched Darren Peterson the other night because you saw some really, really nice things from a guy. The game appears to come very naturally to him.
Very much, yeah. He had it cooking in that game at the Huntsman Center in his debut. Quickly, 28 points, shooting 11 for 23, 4 for 7 from threes, 2 assists. The bad part, negative part, 8 turnovers, which tells you that he threw too many risk passes in a game, and also sometimes against good defense, we speed it up. That's all part of the learning curve at age 19 years old. But what he did, though, was unbelievable, was that he's a rocket driver and a dynamic scorer, and that he has a smooth, silky release point on his three-point shot. And so he has the it factor. He has a talent to score the ball, and he has really a strong body that can defend. And so it's really a smashing debut. And the Jazz won the game. Not that it matters in the Big Tens, but they did win 103-102, and actually a hard-fought game. So he's got it. He's a tremendous young talent, and with normal growth, he'll be an elite player someday down the road. It's going to be Cody Williams, also another young guy, his third year. He should be able to play well in the summer league, and he did. 17 points. But one thing about that it was troubling, he didn't get to the foul line, Sean. So just think about it. Third year, you got to be aggressive. You got to drive the ball to the basket or in transition, try to create opportunities, offensive rebounds. He took no free throws. So I was counseling him. You got to mix up your offensive game, which is growing, but you've got to be more aggressive as far as attacking the paint first and the rim second.
How much are we going to see of Darren Peterson tonight? I mean, that game's going to be overshadowed a little bit by U.S. men's national team action with the Belgium and World Cup game, but they start an hour earlier in summer league play. Jazz Grizzlies, so you got DP and you've got Cam Boozer up at the Huntsman Center. Are we going to see another full game from Darren Peterson?
I would say probably not. He played 27 minutes, but he should play. You know, again, the Jazz play again Tuesday night, and then he plays Thursday against Washington Wizards against AJ DeBoncer. So don't be so sweet about it as far as everything. Just play the guy. Just play him. This is summer league. Play him. I'm not saying play him the whole 40 minutes, but play him to get some more reps as live in the game right now, and hopefully we'll go. And we mentioned before about Cam Boozer, also the third pick of the draft, very good. And so it's just like Darren Peterson. What Boozer does for his team, the Grizzlies, he's almost like a steady influence already. He knows how to play the game. I'll call him a point forward. The way he operates on perimeter, but goes inside. And he moves that ball. He throws some great assist dimes. And let's not forget, he's only 18 years old. He turns 19 years old later on in July. And so this guy's just like Darren Peterson, and just like also AJ DeBoncer, these three top guys in the draft, they're going to lead their team with normal aggression. So I'm sure that he'll play tonight, Darren Peterson, and I'm looking forward to it.
Keontae George gets to be a volunteer coach. They had to jump through some hoops with the league in order to make sure this was handled, under collective bargaining agreement and all that kind of stuff. But Keontae George expressing interest in, and the Jazz also at least entertaining the idea that he gets to be, for the summer league, a little bit of a player-coach situation. What do you think of this?
It's a good idea. In other words, they're trying to help him see the game from a coaching point of view. So he's the point guard for the Jazz as they go forward, and that when you're a point guard, you're an extension of the coach on the court, and that the winning teams have a point guard that literally thinks like as the coaching staff on the sideline. So he'll be in the huddle, he'll be in the meetings as far as not as a player but as a coach. So there's coaching meetings where you talk about what's going on about the team, and then also there's the players' meetings with the coaches. So he'll be involved with the coaches. And it's interesting, again, is coaches think much differently than players. But the better players have an element of coaching in them as far as how they think the game. Not about themselves, Sean, but about how can I get my teammates better. When you're a point guard in the NBA, your world changes every 24 seconds. There's nothing like it. NFL quarterback, you've got to be able to think with your feet and with your head. But you have to process the game. But in NBA basketball, it changes so quickly, and that's why Keontae George is going to be a quasi-assistant coach. He'll help him as far as the Jazz when he plays in a regular game next fall. I'm all for it.
Gordy, where's LeBron going to end up?
Cleveland.
Wow.
Makes the most sense. Yeah, I would say Cleveland, and it'll be drawn out. In other words, it won't be like tomorrow. They're going to take their time. And the Cavs, they have a good team. They're good. They went to the conference finals, got knocked out by the Knicks. I know they were not competitive in those games, but with LeBron, if he does go there, and I think he will, he'll give them another scoring punch. And the question always is, how can he play with James Harden? Will he perform in lockstep? The answer is absolutely yes. And LeBron knows that when he's going there, he'll be the second option behind Donovan Mitchell, and they know that when going in, and that James Harden will slightly go to the sideline as far as not dribbling the ball as much. And so that will happen. Whether it's actually conversed that way or the evolution of it, it's going to play out. And the Cavaliers, I think, will benefit from it. So the Cavs in Cavs basketball, they'll start James Harden at point guard, Donovan Mitchell at 2, at 3, LeBron James, at 4, Evan Mobley, tremendous young talent, and then 5, Jarrett Allen. And then Dennis Schroeder is still there right now. So is Sam Merrill from Utah, and so is Max Strus. So they have a really solid team, and LeBron's going to help them. I think he's going to go there and go back home.
How did you react when you saw the other big blockbuster trade that happened since the last time we spoke? Jaylen Brown is now a 76er.
Yeah, very much. Jaylen Brown is let's not forget, he made second team All-NBA last year. Second team. And that's hard to do. That means that you're in the top 10 players in the NBA. And the Celts are a good organization, and they're a bunch of smart people. Celts won 56 games last year. They got knocked out in the playoffs. There's something behind the scenes that if you're there every single day, you could be exactly what they're saying. I believe just objectively that he was welcome there, and the team was willing to move on from him. And then they pivoted and and they got 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. And really, Paul George is only a stopgap. His contract's up next summer. So, Sean, it's a 1-year deal with Paul George, and then they're going to reassess. But if you're the 76ers, you got Christmas in July. Yes, you did, because now they're going to embrace him, and that they're going to help him play as great as he did with the Celtics. They need him as far as the 76ers. And with Therese Maxey, a young star, and now Jaylen Brown being there, and he also added Dean Wade, who was from Cavaliers. He's a knockdown shooter on perimeter that's going to help them all. And as always, the question is Joel Embiid. If he's healthy, he's tremendous. If he's not, then it's a concern right now. So they also added Anthony Simons, who off the bench will give them a good scoring lift. So the 76ers, they benefited from the Celtics moving on from him. I like the trade from the 76ers point of view. The Celtics salvage it by getting the 2 first-round picks and 2 second rounds, and they're going to reassess next summer again. So we'll see.
Do you like Kawhi back to Toronto?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. He's going home as far as his greatest triumphs, 2019, as far as being world champions. I know he's 2-time MVP in the finals, one time a younger guy with the Spurs back in 2014. And so he goes there, and the extension as far as on his mind, he knows Bobby Webster, the general manager, very well, and he thinks that I'm sure they're talking about it already, is that by going back there, the chances of getting be eligible for an extension would be there right now. It could be a 2-year, $124 million extension, which will then put him probably into his 37th and 38th year as far as age group, and it's going to I guess financially really help him. With the Clippers' point of view, also they are still investigating when they signed him earlier, ironically from the Clippers, and so that is it's on their head right now. What happens as far as the NBA still has not ruled on it, Sean, and it's a long time as far as with an independent agency looking at who did what, who knew about what was going on, and why is it illegal as far as the NBA point of view, not as far as society, but the NBA. It hasn't been ruled on yet, so they move on from him, and we'll see how it plays out now.
What's your list today, Gordy?
All right, we're talking about economics, Sean. So I knew we were going to talk about it. This is the top 12 salaries for next season in the NBA.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly right. When I look at this, I say, wait a second. And also, Sean, and for the listeners right now driving in your car, here's the question I have for you, Sean, and all the listeners. Will these teams get bang for their buck with their star players of these top 12 guys? Will the teams get bang for their buck? That's the question. There's 12 guys. Five of these guys that are the 12, their team last season didn't make the playoffs. So, again, that's the backdrop of this. All right, here we go, Sean. Tied for number 11, highest salary in the NBA, right on point, short. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both make $54.1 million this coming season. Last year, the Clippers won 45 games, and the Clippers won 42 games, and Sixers won 45 games. Number 10th highest paid salary in the NBA. Jimmy Butler, $56.8 million. Warriors won last year 37 games and no playoffs. Tied for 7th is 3 players: Jaylen Brown, Devin Booker, and Karl Anthony Towns. Celtics won 56 games. Booker, meaning the Suns, won 45, and Anthony Towns, Knickerbockers, won 53, plus being world championship. The 6th highest paid player in the NBA is Joel Embiid at $58.1 million with the 76ers. I mentioned earlier a second ago, Sixers won 45 games. I tied for 3 as far as the highest salaries in the NBA. They are Jason Tatum of the Celtics, Giannis, now of the Heat, formerly of the Bucks, and Anthony Davis of the Wizards, who might be traded, Sean will say, within 3 weeks from now. So Tatum, 56 games they won last year's playoffs. Giannis with the Bucks last year won 32 games, no playoffs. Anthony Davis with the Wizards won 17 games after that trade, won with no playoffs appearances. The second most highest paid player in the NBA this year, Nikola Jokic, $59 million with the Nuggets. He's the Rock of Gibraltar, 54 wins, playoffs. And the last but not least, the number 1 player in the NBA with the highest salary is Steph Curry, 37 wins last year with the Warriors, no playoffs. Steph makes this season coming up $62.6 million. So, Sean, do you think these teams are getting bang for their buck?
Well, it's crazy because that's the same I'm making here at ESPN 700. So it's pretty wild to me that we have the same salary. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love it. Good for you. So it's an interesting dilemma. Where again, also that these guys are all 30-something years old. So this is almost the backside of their career, and that just shows you that can you justify making this money? It's almost like a parachute balloon. Thank you so much for your services to quote your team, but also the NBA. And that's why it's so important. You and I mention all the time, especially in July and early August, about the better teams get the salaries correct towards winning. Then let's describe what's winning. Winning is what? Overachieving regular season and getting to the playoffs and getting a very substantial playoff run to justify the star players' salaries. where everybody wins. The fans win, the team wins, and the players win.
Gordy, have you ever been involved in a scenario heading into a big game where you did not think you would have one of your most important players available, and then something happened, and suspension is overturned maybe, an injury is not as severe as you thought it was, and suddenly that player is available? Have you ever had that?
No, because it happens a lot of times. We had Karl Malone. He had got into a fight the day before, and then suddenly we waited for that phone call the next morning by the NBA saying, would he be suspended or not? So usually in the NBA, by the very next day, most times, noontime Eastern time. So in Utah, it would be 10 o'clock in the morning, whether it was called most times, whether a guy would be suspended for how long, won't be able to play the next game, etc., as far as the severity of the outcome. So I know you're talking right now about the World Cup with a USA player and with Belgium.
Yeah.
So it never happened before at all. And it's very interesting how it's going to play out right now. So, no, it's not been that way.
Gordy, I assume you're going to be trying to balance both, watch a little Summer League basketball at the Huntsman, maybe have the phone on the World Cup game. Is that the plan for now?
Yeah, very much. But also, Sean, let's talk about England. You just left there.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable trip. Got to see some matches at center court on Wimbledon. Right now, we've got the split screen on the TV in anticipation of Portugal and Spain, and then you got Wimbledon action on the television. Man, it was amazing watching World Cup coverage on English television. Gordy, also really fascinating because obviously they are just soccer mad over there. I wasn't there long enough to catch an England game while I was there, but man, it was pretty cool to experience that across the pond,
Very much across the pond. And after this, by the World Cup being in North America, it just shows you because there's no differential as far as time zones, that it's really the coverage has been unbelievable as far as viewership.
Yeah.
And that's the power of American soil as far as with the dynamics of it, as far as with all the TV partners. And we see it up close. And like tonight's game could be almost like Sean, I imagine 55, 60 million people watching. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Little mini Super Bowl situation potentially.
Yes.
Gordy.
Very much. And remember in Jazz basketball, Sean, the last point about it is that the Jazz were involved in the most ever watched game in history of professional basketball, Game 6 versus Michael Jordan in 1998 on Flag Day, which is June 14th, where 37 million people watched that game. That's the most game ever in history of NBA basketball.
That's a fun little fact that may or may not be used later to give away some tickets on the show. Gordy, you're the man. Appreciate your time as always,
Thanks,
sir.
Welcome back. Thank you. Peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru. All right. We got Sarah Todd, who's going to join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We've got Wimbledon action on the television. You've got World Cup soccer coming with Portugal and Spain. Obviously, USA Belgium is later tonight as well. A reminder to all of you looking for something to do this week, take the day off early on Thursday. Head up to Soldier Hollow. Spence Checketts and The Drive are going to be at the Utah Men's State Amateur Golf Tournament up there. Soldier Hollow Golf Course, beautiful, picturesque Heber Valley. You cannot beat that experience. So head up there on Thursday during the drive, 2 to 6, right here on ESPN 700. We've got the Daily Dump, and I'm going to use this to jump into a recently released, a fresh preseason all Big 12 team. Which Utes are on it? Who got left off? You're going to want to hear this. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. The truck with the duck solves all your home maintenance problems. Give them a call right now. The air conditioner is working overtime as this summertime heats up. So give them a call. The truck with the duck, they'll come out early. Rob and Company, they handle things quickly, affordably. You don't have to go through this rigmarole of, well, when can you get here? They'll tell you the earliest they can get out. If that's good enough for you, great. If it's an emergency, there's a little extra fee based on that, but they will get someone out there to take care of the flooding, whatever. You can trust them. They've been in business for decades for good reason. The Big 12 preseason all-conference team has been announced, and this is effectively only bulletin board material. We know that. You know that. I know that. It's great, okay? You as a Utah fan, me as a host on the Home of the Utes, I will admit we're biased, right? We look through crimson-tinted glasses all the time. We're always trying to peel that back a little bit and be objective about things, but I'm going to tell you something. This is the conference. You're going to get, Bruce Feldman's going to do a preseason. You're going to get Phil Steele that does preseason. He usually goes down to third team when it comes to all conference. This is the official Big 12 one, and they just did the one team. Texas Tech, heavily represented here. BYU getting some love as well. Utah has one player on the preseason all Big 12 teams. Not an offensive player, not a defensive player. A specialist. Punt and kick returner Mana Carvalho is the first team as a Utah sophomore. First team, only team, all Big 12, preseason all Big 12, according to the conference itself.
That's exactly who you would have guessed before they came out. If there's only one Ute on the team, it would be Mana Carvalho for sure.
I mean, look, I actually love that pick. I think Mana Carvalho is a big weapon for the University of Utah. I think that, he's got a little Britt Covey in him. I think there's some really good things that can happen with this kid. So I like that he's being recognized. He would not have been my first, if you're going to make a bet, how many guys are going to be on this preseason list, Mana would not have been the one that I picked. However, I think it makes sense. I think it's great. This is how it played out according to the official 2026 Big 12 release. Preseason awards, preseason all Big 12 team, voted on by media members who cover the league and its 16-member institutions. Nobody asked us. We are not important enough as media members, just as the Home of the Utes, just letting you know that. Offensive Player of the Year, preseason Offensive Player of the Year, well, no matter how much you don't like the team down south, you have to acknowledge, you have to tip the hat. L.J. Martin was deserving of the Offensive Player of the Year award last season. He is the obvious pick for the Offensive Player of the Year award for this coming season. L.J. Martin, BYU running back. He is one of the 5 most important players in this conference. Period. End of story. If he has another great season, it bodes incredibly well for BYU. If he gets injured or has a regression or anything like that, that could be catastrophic for BYU. He is the preseason Offensive Player of the Year for very good reason.
Yeah, no valid grievance can be aired against that for sure. He's the defending actual Offensive Player of the Year. You expect him to duplicate or if not exceed that season a year later, year more experienced for BYU coming in. That absolutely fine with that pick. I
think he's going to be an excellent player this year. I think that he's going to be one of those guys that you're just like, man, what a problem that BYU gets to benefit from that. I think that he's going to be a great NFL player when that juncture comes along for him in his career. He is, of course, a former Houston player that transferred to Texas Tech. A.J. Holmes Jr. is your preseason defensive player of the year. So Houston in 2022, Houston in 2023, Houston in 2024. In 2025, he had his first year at Texas Tech, was part of their very formidable defensive line. He had 9 tackles for loss. He had 4.5 sacks. He was constantly eating double teams, things like that. He had 40 tackles each of the last 2 years, playing, nose guard effectively. A.J. Holmes Jr. is the Defensive Player of the Year in the preseason. And this is actually a very, very difficult award for an interior defensive lineman to win. So it makes sense to me that L.J. Martin, when we were talking about this in 6 months, will be a back-to-back Offensive Player of the Year. I think it's going to be prohibitively difficult for A.J. Holmes Jr. to actually make enough impact plays as an interior defensive lineman to be the Defensive Player of the Year. That's a linebacker award. That's a safety award. That's maybe a corner award. Defensive, it's a pass rusher award, and he does a decent job pass rushing from the interior, but he is not Aaron Donald. So I think that's going to be a tough one, but a little nod to A.J. Holmes Jr., the former Houston Cougar, who's now a Texas Tech Red Raider. Newcomer of the year, they're tabbing Drew Mestamaker, who came with his coach to Oklahoma State, as the newcomer of the year. He's a redshirt sophomore. He'll be playing quarterback for Oklahoma State, and it can only go up from here for the Cowboys. So they're probably going to be one of the fun stories in the conference after just an abysmal last couple of seasons. Preseason offense, Noah Fafita, quarterback of Arizona. No Bear Bachmeier, no Devin Dampier. Noah Fafita gets the nod. Cam Cook of West Virginia and L.J. Martin are the 2 running backs. They gave you a fullback because apparently they still believe that offenses run fullbacks. Caden Luke of West Virginia. I shouldn't say that because obviously Utah is going to have some fullbacks, but Caden Luke of West Virginia is the fullback on the all-conference preseason all-conference team. Omarion Miller, wide receiver Arizona State. Amari Thomas, wide receiver Houston. Wyatt Young, wide receiver Oklahoma State, are your preseason wide receivers. Terrence Carter Jr. from Texas Tech is your preseason all-conference tight end. The offensive line consists of Joe Cotton from Cincinnati, Shadre Hurst from Houston, Bruce Mitchell from BYU, John Pastor from Kansas State, and Evan Tengesdal from Cincinnati. So Cincinnati expected to have a really formidable offensive line. They've got 2 guys in that top 5. All of them seniors, by the way, with the exception of Tengesdal, and he is a redshirt junior. Kicker Stone Harrington from Texas Tech, and the aforementioned Mono Carvalho from Utah is your punt return and kick return specialist. Your first-team defensive line, C.J. Fight from Arizona State, Wendell Gregory from Kansas State, A.J. Holmes, who I already told you was the predicted Defensive Player of the Year, and Keanu Tanuvasa, BYU senior defensive lineman. Keanu Tanuvasa had, by every account, a pedestrian year last year. Was he bad? No. As a Utah fan, did you want him to be bad? Maybe. He wasn't bad. He was not an all-conference level player. He was not an impact player. He was not somebody that you looked at and said, wow, what a humongous loss he was for Utah, what a humongous gain he was for BYU. His production fell consistently. He had the same year from a numbers standpoint at BYU in 14 games last year as he had in 7 games, an injury-shortened year for Utah 2 seasons ago. So Keanu Tanuvasa, in order to justify a preseason all-conference pick, he's going to have a bounce back. There's just no other way to put it. He's going to have a better year than he had last year. Of course, he is more than capable of that. We know that he's a talented player. He's just that kind of guy that if he puts it together, he has the physical tools. So, will he? Keanu Tanuvasa gets the vote of confidence from the Big 12 media. Adam Trick is the other defensive lineman. He's a Texas Tech senior. So Texas Tech with a couple of transfers making up 2 of the 5 defensive linemen mentioned. Ben Roberts, linebacker, Texas Tech. He had a huge game in the conference championship game, if I remember correctly. Ben Roberts is still there. Jacob Rodriguez has moved on. Ben Roberts will be a problem. Maybe not to the same extent that Rodriguez was last year, but he's definitely a great player. Austin Romaine is the other Texas Tech linebacker getting preseason all-conference nods. And Cade Uluwave, the Cal transfer to BYU, who is, according to an article we were citing last week, is the fastest player on BYU's football team at about 230 pounds. Cade Uluwave should be an NFL linebacker in about a year and a half. The dude is a monster physically. If he is healthy, he is a very serious candidate for Defensive Player of the Year in this conference. If he was at any other school besides Cal in the ACC last year, I don't think BYU gets him. I think he still flew under the radar a little bit relative to some of the other possibilities. Now, I know BYU had to fight off some other big-time suitors to get Cade Uluwave, but he was coming back home. He's a high school product from here. I hate that Cade Uluwave is wearing a BYU uniform this year. Excited to talk to him, actually, at Big 12 Media Days, but I hate that he's going to be playing for BYU this year from a Utah perspective.
So the question, OC, here on the home of the Utes, is there anyone on Utah that has a legitimate gripe of being snubbed on the preseason All Big 12 team? Which you mentioned, this is not like the end of the year team where you got a second team. So there's only one quarterback, there's only one running back. If there had been multiple teams, maybe we see a Devin Dampier in there, maybe we see a Wayshawn Parker, but because it's only one team, limits some things. That being said, anybody on the defensive side, should Devin Dampier, for example, be over Noah Fafita as the quarterback on the team, or Bear Bachmeier, BYU perspective there, maybe?
I think Bear has a decent – I think Bear's going to be a Heisman candidate this year. I think Bear Bachmeier is going to be a Heisman candidate because I think BYU is going to be like undefeated at some point when we start having those conversations, and he is going to have big numbers. I really believe that. I don't know if BYU defensively is going to be the same team that we have watched. Aaron Roderick has done a masterful job with Bear Bachmeier. I think Bear Bachmeier is going to be a Heisman candidate. I think he's a Tim Tebow reincarnation. They just use him the exact same way. He has that same kind of grit and toughness. I think that he takes a leap forward in his accuracy and his decision-making in the passing game. They've got enough talent around him that can be a problem. I think Bear Bachmeier comes in with more, because of BYU's year last year, I think he gets a little bit of a head start even over like a Devin Dampier, because people are going to be expecting a step back from Utah. So even if they don't take a step back, and even if they overperform in Morgan Scalley's first year, a lot of this is just confirmation bias, right? And Bear Bachmeier is right now ahead of everyone, I guess, except Noah Fafita in that race. By the way, this would look a lot different if Brendan Sorsby were eligible this year. I don't think Noah Fafita's name is there.
Yeah, Sorsby's the quarterback of the year preseason, probably.
I mean, that's probably the way that it goes.
Yeah.
But I think Devin Dampier is going to have a monster year. I think that Bear Bachmeier is going to have a monster year. And I think that when we get that Holy War rivalry game, that matchup is going to be one of the premier matchups of quarterbacks nationally. Because it's not going to be two guys throwing for 400 yards. It's going to be two guys doing what college football quarterbacks do. It's going to be guys making timely passes, but pulling the ball down, running for first downs, breaking tackles. In Bear Bachmeier's case, running through some tackles. In Devin Dampier's case, spinning out of tackles, juking people out of their jocks. I really think that that's going to be a fascinating QB matchup when these two teams square off. When is the last time we said that about BYU versus Utah? It was always like, these guys have one, these guys don't. clearly the better quarterback position, the better quarterback picture right now is at one of the two schools. I don't know how clear it is this year. Bear gets a slight edge right now because BYU had more team success last year, because Bear was the reason that BYU won that game last year. Him and Kyle Whittingham.
Shots fired on the old Utah coach. Are we going back to that?
I have been abundantly clear about my respect for Kyle Whittingham, but he lost Utah that game last year,
Yeah,
and I said that
mishandled
immediately. I said it immediately after the game, and I will not, like, that's a hill I will die on, because I've died on many a hill in his favor.
And he's going to be the reason why they lose to Ohio State this year.
To go back to your question about whether or not there's any Utah player who's got a legitimate gripe for being left off preseason all-conference honors, I actually don't think that there is anyone who's got a real gripe.
I think there might have been a few guys, like I was alluding to, that would be on a second team or should be on a preseason all Big 12 second team, but there's only one team. I think I agree with you on that, OC.
I think that there's a bunch of Utah players who are like right outside of that top in the conference at their position conversation, but that all gets rectified at the end of the year, right? You either play above what the expectation is, all right, or you don't. Rabbit Evans, are you an all-conference level safety? You better hope so. We need you to be that. Everyone needs you to be that, right? Jackson Benny, you're right there on that borderline. If you were not a position less player last year, maybe the conversation about you heading into this year is a little bit different. I think that him playing a little nickel, playing a little corner, playing a little safety,
a little offense,
playing plenty of offense, I think that hurts you when you're getting into these types of conversations.
Yeah,
right.
I think Jonnu Hall is someone that could play himself onto a team. Maybe
Jonnu Hall can certainly play himself onto a team, but relative to the guys who they've already listed on the team, it's like
tough to overcome.
Nobody believes that what we've seen from Jonnu Hall so far in college football is better than what we have seen from the guys, from the linebackers for Texas Tech and from Kedu Luave. Even though they haven't done it, he hasn't done it in a BYU uniform. He was a great player at Cal last year. So I think this is good, though. I think it's appropriate. I think it's motivational for Morgan Scalley and his coaching staff to be able to tell Keith Olson and Zeraway Williams and Kelvin Obot and all these guys, like, Kelvin Obot, why aren't you the newcomer of the year as the highest rated recruit in this conference, the highest rated freshman in this conference? Why aren't you the newcomer of the year? Go be the newcomer of the year. Go be an all-conference level lineman as a true freshman. You know how difficult that is? When's the last time we even saw that in college football? Penei Sewell? I mean, that's a position you usually have to grow into a little bit. I like this, that there's meat left on the bone for these guys to go chase.
And as far as the rivalry goes, OC, the fact that the name that sticks out to me from BYU, one of their 6 players on this list, and I know I got a pretty good feeling you're thinking the same thing. Keanu Tanavasa is getting preseason love. Like, that is, I don't know if Morgan Scalley is going to use that. You know, is he actually going to say that when you say maybe he uses this as bulletin board material for his team? But he's in the back of probably Morgan Scalley's mind when he's talking about this, using this as bulletin board material, whether he says his name or not. And he knows that a lot of the players are thinking about that too on his team. You got, like, that has to be the case, right? And we'll see. I don't know that it's warranted based on Keanu's season last year, but he is a big name in the conference. He's had some success at that position, more at Utah than he did last year at BYU. He's a veteran. He's getting some preseason love. Like, that's pretty juicy for this rivalry going into the season.
The other thing about it is a lot of this is just people knowing your names. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of it is just like, oh man, who's somebody I knew about him as a recruit? Who's somebody that like, because again, this is the media doing these things. Also, small grievance. You should separate defensive linemen and edge players. The positions are drastically different, especially at the college level. Do edge rusher. You're already not running a real defense. You're running like a 5-3-5 defense. So do 2 interior defensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, 3 linebackers. Make sure you tell everyone which defensive back is the nickel, because fans know now, right? The defensive backs in the conference tell us this is the corner, this is the other corner, this is the nickel, these are the safeties, right? You can do that in a preseason all-conference list. That, by the way, doesn't actually mean anything. But it is a fun talking point for us. That's your whole daily dump today. Utah gets 1 player on the Big 12 preseason all-conference list, and that is punt return, kick return specialist Mana Carvalho. Here's an important thing to point out. If at the end of the year the list looks like that, it means Utah did not have a good season. Teams with 1 player on the all-conference list are typically not very good teams. If that 1 player is a specialist, that's especially bad for you. So, Utah you've got to have 3 minimum. Even if it's a kind of a by committee thing, if Jackson Benny is not on this list by the end of the year, probably a bad year for Utah. If 1 offensive lineman hasn't played himself into this conversation, it's probably not a great year. If Wayshawn Parker is not at least right there nipping at the heels of LJ Martin, then you're probably having some struggles. If Devin Dampier, most importantly, doesn't create a debate at the end of the season about whether him or Bear Bachmeier or Noah Fafita or fill in the blank are the best quarterback in this conference, well, we're talking about some growing pains in Morgan Scalley's first year. And I anticipate with this schedule that even when you have growing pains, it still means like a 9 or a 10 win season. So you should have a bunch of guys on there, because preseason awards are speculative. Postseason awards are a reward for wins. You know how good you have to be on a bad team and be a first-team all-conference player? You have to be like Travis Hunter. All right, got to take another break. We'll double it up. Sarah Todd to talk some Utah Jazz basketball and all around the NBA after some big trades, some crazy personnel movement. Do we have any new contenders in the NBA? It's the Sean O'Connell Show. Portugal and Spain underway. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. 0-0 Portugal, España, about 4.5 minutes into the game. A game that would be, in most parts of the world, the featured matchup of the day in the World Cup. But because of the controversy surrounding Team USA being, or Flo Balogun being available for Team USA in tonight's game, there's there's a lot more conversation around the Americans. And the latest, by the way, is that a lot of people are now calling for FIFA to exercise a rule in Articles 2 and 15 of their regulations where government interference is a violation of FIFA rules that results in disqualification and suspension of the federation whose government interferes with FIFA policies. Bosnia is calling for it. Belgium is calling for it. Piers Morgan is calling for it because, of course, and for better or worse, Donald Trump has admitted that he called the president of FIFA and asked for a review of the red card penalty. So that admission would, under the letter of the law, potentially expose Team USA at least to an investigation here. But I don't think we have anything to worry about as the host nation. Seems unlikely.
And given how much Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA, has tried to stay on President Trump's good side throughout this whole thing, I'm not sure that he's going to make a ruling like that, even though it sounds like you said, by the letter of the law, there should at least be some consideration to reverse their reversal. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. Also, I wonder, and we'll have to ask some more soccer experts, OC, about this. I wonder, does a phone call from the president of one of the nations playing, happens to be the host nation, is that alone constitute enough government interference under their bylaws to say this was government interference? This was plain and simple government interference. This should not have been this suspension should not have been delayed a year like they're trying to do. We'll see.
I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs, the minor little details here, but again, this is FIFA who has to. FIFA would have to enforce these rules, their own rules. So FIFA would have to reverse their own decision and effectively punish the nation that they chose not to punish. It's not going to happen. I don't think we have to worry about it. The controversy ends up giving you a lot more ammunition if you're an opposing nation. The controversy, I think, rallies the troops here in the United States around the U.S. men's national team. Although there are plenty of virtue signaling individuals on social media saying, I'm an American citizen, but I'm rooting for Belgium tonight. Shut up. Knock it off.
It's just, I get feeling like this was gross, that the way that they decided to, and it feels like at the last minute, they decided to, after a phone call from the president, decided to rule in U.S.'s favor here. I don't get the manufactured, I gotta feel bad about it if Utah if U.S. wins, or I gotta root against the U.S. because of it. No, like, how many times has your favorite team been the beneficiary of an obviously bad call in any game, and yet you went, man, that sucks for the other team, but worked out for us. You never react the way that some of these people are reacting.
At the end of the day, you're the president of FIFA. You're one of the few people on the planet that can tell the president of the United States to kick rocks.
Absolutely.
It's
not their track record, but they absolutely can.
There are very few offices in any land where if you get a phone call from the president of the United States, you can be like, sorry, I'm not going to do you any favors here. most people have to answer that phone call, and whether they want to or not, they have to be like, all right, yeah, we'll look into it to stay on the good side of Team USA or whatever. Like, there are very few entities powerful enough that you have to appease, in this case, Donald Trump and his office. But FIFA is one of those organizations. FIFA, on the sporting landscape, doesn't need the U.S. at all. Now, I think that they've made a decision based on what they are seeing in this World Cup, in the revenue that is being generated with these sold-out stadiums, in the crazy North American World Cup results, in the television ratings that we have not been paying a ton of attention to, but have been spectacular around the world. I think what FIFA is doing is they're saying, man, if we can get this economic juggernaut, this fan base, this humongous 300 million person country on board with the game of soccer the way the rest of the world is, for us, for FIFA, that ends up being a huge advantage. And if the way that you want to achieve that is by overturning a bad red card, it's a pretty small price to pay, honestly, for FIFA. If you're going to be accused of corruption and you're going to be accused of bending rules, again, you're FIFA. You've got a pretty long history of doing exactly that. Corruption on the FIFA level is like human rights violations, not should Flo Balogun play or not. It's, did Qatar use slave labor to build us the stadiums we needed to do a World Cup there? Like, that's the level of controversy, of scandal that they're used to dealing with at the FIFA World Cup level. This is a tiny blip on the radar that happens to potentially have a massive impact on, weirdly, an emerging soccer market that is, in every other sport, the number one sports market in the world. I mean, it is, from a FIFA business perspective, it is the most ultimate no-brainer that has ever happened. If you watched the video and you saw the red card, and it was an obvious red card, if Flo Balogun was reacting poorly, if he was punching people, you would just have to say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I'm not listening to this phone call. There's nothing I can do here. Every pundit in the game was saying that that was a bogus red card. If you go back, and people will, right? All of you folks with the video editing skills, I need the mashup. I need the reaction from Thierry Henry and Zlatan. I need the reaction from, Crouch. I need the reaction from Jurgen Klinsmann. I need the reaction from whomever on the Flo Balogun red card before there was any idea that he would then be reinstated. And all of those people were like, that's kind of bogus. That's too much. That's extra harsh. I don't think there were very few that agreed that that should have been a red card penalty and that a suspension should have come with it in the first place. And a lot of those same people today are like, well, you can't overturn this. That's bogus. Well, two things cannot be true. You either agree with the foul and the penalty associated with the penalty, or the foul, excuse me, or you think that the extra harsh punishment in this case was rectified using a tiny little clause in the bylaws. And I get it. It's a slippery slope when you do that. And that was a FIFA decision, because now every federation, every soccer federation, on every yellow card and red card, they're going to ask for a review. They're going to ask for an appeal. There's going to be an office set up for this. Somebody's going to get jobs because they now are being asked, hey, can you review this thing? It will be part of, that's something that FIFA is actually pretty nimble on. They put in new rules, including new rules that I just found out about this World Cup, that if you talk behind your hand, if you cover your hand and you say something to an opponent, red card, out.
We've seen at least 2 of those ejections. Yeah, and regardless of what the penalty of a red card is leading up to this play with Flo Balogun, the play that happened on Wednesday before this FIFA decision was made, it feels like the suspension after a red card in certain cases is way too punitive anyway. Like the fact that you can talk under your hand and be suspended for the next game is absolutely terrible. The fact that a guy can accidentally step on a guy's ankle and there was no card given in the run of play, but after watching in what was, we found out later, what was not following the VAR officials were not following the rules in what images they showed the on-field referee, to then slow it down and do freeze frames. That's not what VAR is supposed to be. To then say that's a red card and then say you're also suspended a game, like there's certain ones. It's like I've heard people liken it to targeting. I think you
exactly
probably feel the same way. Like some targeting fouls, sure, that warrants some kind of suspension. Every targeting foul, absolutely not.
I mean, targeting. We need a third level of targeting that is implemented, where there's the targeting without an ejection, there's the targeting with an ejection, and there's the targeting with an ejection that also includes a carryover in the next week. Targeting, by the way, has been poorly officiated and adjudicated across college football and is a black eye on college football. Oh, my goodness. If you're watching right now, Portugal's goalkeeper just earned his entire check for whatever he's getting in this World Cup. Turned away two very meaningful shot attempts from Spain that I think both would have found the back of the net. Diogo Costa, well done, sir. 16 minutes into Portugal versus Spain. Look, you can change the channel and find people who know a lot more about soccer and about FIFA technicalities and rules than I ever will hope to. The fact that this now has become a central conversation in a World Cup that is hosted by the United States is really fascinating because, first of all, you still got to play. Belgium still has to play. U.S. still has to play. The result of tonight will change this conversation one way or another. You've got potential outcomes all over the place, right? Belgium wins. There's going to be a bunch of international fans using that to dunk on the U.S. Cheaters never prosper, whatever, right? Team USA wins and Flo doesn't score. Flo is not massively impactful on the game, which, quite honestly, I don't see how those two things would happen in the same match for this Team USA, this U.S. men's national team squad. I think that, him being available means that they're going to rely on him, utilize him effectively, and he will have an impact on this match. But let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that he is, not obviously a difference maker, right? But Team USA wins. Well, there's plenty of meat on the bone now for every pundit desk to say, hey, they won and they didn't need him. Hey, they won and it wasn't because of him. So at the end of the day, this kind of didn't matter all that much. There's also, and I think for FIFA and the muckrakers out there, the conversationalists, the people that want there to be controversy and they want there to be something to talk about, this is going to be the most fascinating outcome. Let's say that USA wins and it's because of a goal and an assist or a pair of goals or something like that from Flo Balogun. Now, this becomes one of the biggest stories in World Cup history. Host nation being given what some people perceive to be preferential treatment on the overturning of a suspension or the suspension of a suspension, so it can be enforced at a later date. I mean, it is very much the soap opera of sport that I think for soccer in the United States is necessary. In England, in France, in Spain, in Portugal, they don't need this for the general public to have an opinion on the World Cup. They all do. It's built in. It's baked into the culture. The same way we all care about either the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl or whatever, or college football national championship, or more appropriately, whether or not Brendan Sorsby should have been eligible this year. The levels of outrage, that's the closest comparison we've had. Everybody in college football was against Texas Tech. Everybody in international soccer right now is against the idea that Team USA is benefiting from this rule, at least seemingly. We're here for it. Almost 20 minutes in to the round of 16. Portugal 0, Spain 0. Joining us now to talk a little Utah Jazz basketball, a little NBA. Sarah Todd, NBA insider, at NBA Sarah on Twitter, which is the coolest handle you can find. Sarah, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks for some more Summer League action.
Let's start there with Summer League, and obviously number 2 overall pick, Darren Peterson, had a huge game, 28 points, couple of blocks. Cody Williams looked good, some back spasms, taking other important players out. But with Darren Peterson, that debut, unofficial debut, I guess, but that debut in a Jazz uniform, could it have gone any better?
Probably not. I mean, he had a few turnovers, and so maybe that could have gone better for anyone who's thinking about his, potential as a point guard. But it's Summer League. It's literally his first game that he's played in since March. And so anybody that knows anything probably doesn't care at all about the turnovers. Turnovers, fouls, those types of things. You don't really pay attention to those in Summer League. His debut really could not have gone too much better because it wasn't just about 28 points. It wasn't just about the fact that he shot efficiently. It was he wasn't forcing anything. All of the things that you've seen from him through college, even back when he was playing in high school, all the things that you thought, those were the things that if he brings them to an NBA court, that they'll make him great. None of them changed. And he looked so ready and so cool and collected, and like everything just seemed easy for him. He came onto a Summer League court looking like they should shut him down right now because he's just an NBA player. That's how it felt.
Is that what they'll do?
I think that they're going to play him today, and I would be absolutely shocked if they didn't play him in the first game in Vegas, right? Because that's a marquee game. It's the primetime game, the first night of Summer League against the Washington Wizards and AJ DeBonsa. And the Wizards are definitely going to be wanting to show off DeBonsa. So I think that they'll play Darren in the first game there. Would not shock me at all if the Jazz were to shut down Cody Williams after today. Would not shock me at all if they were to shut down all of Ace, Cody, and Darren after the first game in Vegas. Maybe they let him play in the second game, but if history tells us anything, that's kind of what happened last year, right? They had their third-year player last year in Bryce. He played in the first game in Salt Lake, and then he didn't play in Vegas. And then their prize rookies, they shut them down after the second game in Vegas. And so that's kind of what I would expect if I was a Jazz fan.
I don't know if I'm going to go with any of my expectations as a Jazz follower anymore, because part of my expectation, a lot of what was talked about was that, as you're rounding out of the tanking era and you get this number 2 pick and it was going to be AJ or it was going to be Darren. Okay, it was Darren, and that's great. And what we're going to do is we're going to add Darren to a sizable front court that includes Jaren Jackson Jr., who you acquired in a trade, Lauri Markkanen, who we're not going to pretend is hurt all the time, and hopefully he's not hurt all the time anymore, and a hopefully fully recovered Walker Kessler. And now that's not a reality. Walker Kessler is a Laker. You've got some picks coming up, some pick swaps coming up because of it. But it feels like maybe some of the best laid plans didn't go the way that a lot of Jazz fans thought they would. Maybe this is something that the front office always considered to be a strong possibility, that this 26-27 campaign would not include Walker Kessler or a similarly talented young center. But to me, it feels like a departure from what we thought the plan was. Is it a significant departure?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a departure, but I think it's a departure for a reason, right? Like if we think back to, a couple of years ago before Lauri Markkanen signing his extension, right? Like everything that the front office is saying publicly and even privately, they're saying even more, right? Like that we love Lauri Markkanen, we want him to be a part of the future. It's going to but nobody's off the table, right? Like we're going to listen to offers. That's the job, right? Like they have to. And so if an offer had come in for Lauri that they thought, well, that actually might be better for sustained success, right? Like that might be better for us down the road. That is an offer that we can't really pass up. Then we're probably looking at a Jazz team that doesn't have Lauri Markkanen on it. That would have been a departure from the plan. And the Walker Kessler situation, the plan was to have Walker Kessler on the roster, but I don't think that many people were expecting for the Lakers to empty out their draft coffers for Walker Kessler. I don't think that the Jazz were expecting not only can we trade Walker Kessler, basically get the rights to 4 first-round picks, but we can also not have to take back any contracts and just have room in the cap space, and we get a trade exception. It was such a good deal, and so that's a departure from the plan, but it's a departure because they listened to the offers and they got something they felt like they couldn't pass up on.
Does it change the timeline significantly at all? Because timeline for me is important with this Utah Jazz team because you've asked for patience for, half a decade now with no reward for your fan base. And while this fan base is incredibly loyal, there's a limit to all of it, right? So does it significantly change the timeline? Is Walker Kessler an important enough piece to this whole thing that now you are not a play-in team or a borderline playoff team without somebody like him? If you're going to start Nurkic instead, is that going to be a big enough change that now you have to pitch patience one more time to a fan base that's pretty frustrated by it?
No, I don't think so. I think, if it changes anything, it doesn't change the timeline. It just changes kind of how the Jazz are going to operate through the timeline. I think the Jazz are still going to try to win as much as they can this year. I think that, for the purposes of whether or not this is a successful season for the Jazz, that's probably can they make the play-in? Can they make the playoffs? That feels important this season. This should be a team that is able to kind of break through and be a winning team this year. And so I think that still holds true. I don't think that even with Walker Kessler, if you look at the roster as constructed right now, that's a team that anyone is thinking, okay, that's a title contender. And so the timeline was never under the assumption that the Jazz are going to be actually competing for a ring this year. It was that they're on the way up, right? And so I think that still stands. And now that trajectory, the ramp up towards being an actual title contender, just includes that you're going to have to probably get a better rim protector at some point over the next couple of years. And I think that's totally fine. That's not ideal, right? But they were going to have to make changes to this roster anyways. And now that's one of the changes that they're going to have to think about as they start to see who operates well, what groupings pair together when they're on the floor, what the rotations might look like. This is going to be a season where it's important that the Jazz win, but also it's just really important to learn what they actually have because Will Hardy hasn't been unleashed enough. None of the players have really been unleashed enough to know what it really looks like when they're trying to play at a high competitive level in the NBA.
Kawhi's headed back to Toronto. LeBron might be going back to Cleveland. Can we get Rudy Gobert back in Utah for that rim protection?
I think that's going to be a little out of the price range.
Okay.
But also, when we're talking about timelines, right? You're probably going to want someone that's a little bit younger. Also, I don't know if that would be a great reunion. I'm not sure about that.
That's why I'm not in the personnel department for the Utah Jazz. Sarah Todd is our guest here, talking all things NBA on the Sean O'Connell Show. So getting back to what we saw from Darren Peterson in his first Summer League game, and, A.J. DeBonsa, Cam Boozer, they were kind of in that conversation. We don't overreact. We're not supposed to overreact to anything we're seeing, but there's a chance that we get DP and Cam Boozer tonight. Jazz Grizzlies, Summer League, 5 o'clock, Huntsman Center on ESPN. And, you get to see a little what you have and a little what you did not get. And obviously Cam Boozer has a high ceiling as well, as does AJ DeBonsa. How closely are you going to be watching Jazz Grizzlies and that aspect of the matchup?
Yeah, a little bit. I think importantly, you always have to take a grain of salt with how people play in Summer League. Like, it's important to think back and realize that, Cody Williams has looked really good in Summer League, and a lot of what he's been able to do hasn't really translated to the NBA court yet. It's important to think about the fact that Keontae George looked incredible in Las Vegas, had a game with like 33 his rookie season, and it took him a couple of years to kind of materialize some of that on an NBA court. And there are so many guys. I mean, the annals of the NBA is filled with guys who just look incredible in Summer League and don't materialize at all, right? And so it all has to be taken with a grain of salt. That's why, I always urge people not to look at the points, not to look at the scores. You can even not look at the box score at all, and just how does it feel when the guys they're out there on the court. And I think that's what's special, and that's what stands out about Darren Peterson, is that it looked like light work. It looked easy. It didn't look like he was forcing anything. And so that's why it feels like it'll translate better. Of course, we're all going to be watching those matchups, right? We're all going to be watching about what it looks. I mean, I was watching Kingston Flemings. He was the 8th pick, right? I'll be watching Cam Boozer. And, we're going to be thinking about those guys a lot over the next few years, depending on how they perform in their rookie seasons or the year after that, because you're going to be thinking like, oh, did we take the right guy? Did the Jazz, should they have taken, Cam Boozer or even like Caleb Wilson? You're going to go down like, oh, he was right there. But, if I was a Jazz fan right now, I'd be thinking, we did exactly the right thing. You took the right guy, the best player available in the moment. In my opinion, you took literally the number 1 player in the draft available, and you just got him at number 2. And so it all looks good right now. Of course, we're going to be watching everyone else so closely. That's what every hoops junkie in the world does, is want to compare everything till the end of time.
We've seen some crazy moves, including the Walker Kessler trade. Jaylen Brown got traded. Kawhi, like we already referenced, is headed back to Toronto. LeBron's going to have a new home. Based on what we have seen in the offseason, is there a new contender anywhere because of roster reconstruction?
I mean, I think Miami's interesting, right? Like, does Giannis and Bam and everyone else that Miami's trying to pull together, does that make that interesting? Are the Lakers better or worse now? Like, that's something that's interesting. Same thing can be said for the Celtics, the Sixers. There's a lot of big moves, but I think the most interesting thing about them is that among all of the big moves, the biggest thing that you're wondering is like, does that make that team better or worse? It doesn't really stand out as that gives them a huge jump. And the only outlier in that is probably Toronto, because Kawhi showed up there one time and took them to a 1-year run to a title. And so showing up again, I mean, he's a talent lifter. And so I think that's probably the biggest outlier. I think all of the other moves, you're wondering, does that make them better or worse?
USA, Belgium, who you got?
Oh man, I probably lose a lot of friends if I say what I think is going to happen.
Oh no, Sarah, no.
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one.
You've said enough, Sarah Todd. How dare you?
Yeah. I'll say I'm going for Egypt later tonight. Okay, that's what I'm going to say.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Enjoy Summer League. We'll chat again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, OC. Hey, don't think that I haven't noticed that this is also not a Friday show. I'm still waiting for my chance.
Oh, we will call you on Friday specifically to let you air some grievances. All right.
Yeah, we're not even talking about basketball. Just call me on Friday. I've got some things to say.
All right. I like that. That's what the grievances are for. We'll do it. Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Talk soon.
Sarah Todd at NBA Sarah, Des News, NBA, and Jazz Insider. And look, I asked the question. I understand that there's such thing as an offer you can't refuse. And I think that's what the Utah Jazz front office got when it came to this Walker Kessler trade. But I want to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about, does it alter timelines? Is it enough of a timeline alterer that you're justified in maybe feeling frustrated by this as a Utah Jazz fan? Something to look at. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, I'm not going to lie. When I was overseas, when I was enjoying Wimbledon and having some strawberries and cream, I did not expect to see the big news about Walker Kessler being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think, like we did last year with the possibility of Cooper Flagg becoming a Utah Jazz man, some of us got a little bit over fixated on the idea of the Jazz having this like monstrous front court with Lowry and Walker Kessler and Trey J, and what'll it look like? How, will that be enough to stop even like the Victor Wembanyama's of the world? Will that be something that Joker can't get through? And I just started to have these visions of Sugar Plums dancing in my head about what the Utah Jazz front court was going to look like, and obviously Walker Kessler was a big part of that. And I still think you could easily make the case that the bigger part of what they want to do, especially defensively, is Jaren Jackson Jr., because he is the former Defensive Player of the Year. But Walker Kessler being traded, and being traded specifically for future draft capital, is something that feels like on a timeline front, a 2 or 3 years ago type of decision for the Utah Jazz. So I was like, hold on a minute. Can this franchise afford to, if the result is, and I'm glad we had that conversation with Gordy, I'm glad we had that conversation with Sarah. If the result is, oh, you're not as ready now to compete as you might have been, all respect to Yusuf Nurkic, right? He's not quite the upside player that Walker Kessler was supposed to be.
Bosnian beast. Feeling pretty bad about that Wednesday decision in the World Cup, by the way.
Yeah, Yusuf Nurkic is probably liking every one of the Bosnian Football Federation's tweets that are anti-U.S. men's national team right now. Okay, so there's some tension. But let's say that Yusuf Nurkic is now your starting center. Is your ceiling as a franchise as high as it was with Walker Kessler as your starting center? Assuming he's healthy, I think the answer is no. Let's say that Yusuf Nurkic is not your starting center, and you decide to go a little bit smaller in the lineup and go with Jaren Jackson Jr. as your 5. Is your ceiling as high as a franchise? Well, maybe this is better in certain aspects, right? Now, the question about whether or not you're going to have Darren Peterson, Keontae George, Ace Bailey, everyone kind of coexisting harmoniously, maybe it gets a little bit easier when you let Ace play front court a little bit more often, when you let him be a big in a small lineup, a bigger player in a small lineup. Maybe that's better for you. I mean, it's a genuine question for me. Also, the factor of that Sarah mentioned and that we've talked about plenty, like, is Will Hardy the tactician ready to flip a switch and be like, all right, now we're actually trying to win. Now, instead of manipulating my lineups in a way that makes it look like a compelling loss, I'm going to manipulate my lineups in a way that I'm supposed to win. And I'm supposed to do it today, because there is no more, all right, we'll do it next year for the Utah Jazz. There's not. You're not going to be able to convince anyone, yeah, guys, we thought we were going to have Walker, but then this offer came in and we just had to take it. So in 2028, that's when we're really going to flip the switch and turn it on. It's an absolute zero-sum game for the fan base when it comes to that. I guess it all boils down to how big of a loss from this roster is Walker Kessler.
And listen,
how many wins do you not get because Walker Kessler is not your starting center this year? Because if it's 11, that's a big deal. That's the difference between you being a playoff play-in tournament team and being a team that once again missed the playoffs. If it's 3, probably not that big of a deal, and certainly worth the pick swaps and the acquisitions of future draft capital. And by the way, who knows if or when any of that is going to be utilized to make this Utah Jazz team a competitor, a contender quicker. I'm talking about, like, I don't think there's any question whether or not this was a good deal to make in the long term. My question is, are you really able to think long term the same way other NBA teams are? Because you've been playing this long game for so long. And it is to the ultimate frustration of a very loyal fan base if you extend that out any further. So how big a loss is Walker Kessler? To be determined. But to me, felt like in the immediate short future, kind of a big loss.
Yeah, I don't think his loss should be understated, but I also think it's equally important not to overstate his loss. And he is.
Yeah, I think that's where you have to net out on it.
He is. I think that you can get a reasonable facsimile of that monstrous lineup that we all envisioned Walker Kessler would be part of. Lowry, Trey J, Walker.
It's Jackson Hayes now.
Yeah, with Lowry, Trey J, and Nurk. I really do think you can get a reasonable facsimile. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that Nurkic is anywhere near the player that Walker Kessler could be, right? But he'll give you something close enough. I think Jackson Hayes is a terrible NBA player. Did not like that move. He's also probably a terrible person, so there's that. But whatever, you have to use your cap space somehow. The center market really dried up before you decided to make that move. to trade Kessler to LA for what is a really good package of draft capital. I still think this Jazz team will be in the mix, if not in a play-in position. I don't think that there's some people that are saying, well, they're not going to be a play-in team now. I don't think those people watched how well Nurkic played with the Jazz. I mean, the guy had 4 triple-doubles in a row, something, 4 triple-doubles in a row somewhere. Yes, on a team that's trying to lose, but this was a guy that when the Jazz traded for him thought he would not play at all and would be out of the league. That was our expectation for Jusuf Nurkic. He ended up being a really good backup center and a guy that he ended up being a starting center because Kessler didn't play all last year, right? So he's a better player than people are giving him credit for, especially in this system. And this means more minutes for Ace Bailey, like you said. They're probably going to have a lot of Ace Bailey at small forward type thing. That's going to be a reason for an indicator of success for the Utah Jazz. I think he's going to contribute a lot to that. The other thing, long term, we've been kind of hinting at this. OC, I could not see the Jazz being able to keep Walker Kessler and Keontae George financially. So this means they get to keep Keontae George, which is not a bad thing either.
They kind of choose to keep Keontae. And the other thing about this is when you've stockpiled draft picks and you're a team that does not attract top free agents, one of the ways that you can get impactful, important players, and usually it's going to be on kind of a shorter-term rental, right? Because they're not going to want to extend maybe necessarily. But a way that you can force that issue and you can convince guys is you trade for them instead of trying to convince. You say, look, I like what you've got over here, Denver. I like what you've got over here, Portland. I like what you've got over here, New Orleans. Here's some picks. You need them. You stink. All right? We've got a young roster. We don't need to have this, plethora of first-rounders. So here's a couple. Here's a pick swap that we got from the Lakers. You can have that now. Here's something else we got from the Lakers. You can also have that. Give me and maybe it's a direct replacement for Walker Kessler, or maybe, like you're saying, maybe Nurk does enough, or maybe Jaren
it's
Jackson
just an
Jr.
upgrade from Jackson Hayes as backup center. Yeah.
Or maybe
or a slight upgrade from Nurk.
Maybe Trey J ends up being a good enough 5 for what you want to do. So you're like, all right. But the acquisition possibilities when you have draft capital is a lot more important for the Utah Jazz than it is for maybe any other team in the league. So I totally understand why you made the trade, why you had to make the trade, at that price. My initial reaction to it was, oh, wait, is this a slowing down of the improvement process? And I think at the end of the day, hopefully not. Hopefully Will Hardy is a good enough coach and everyone else is healthy enough that it's not a slowing down. But you ain't a contender this year anyway. So there's not a meaningful difference for me between being a play-in team and a play-off team. If that's the difference that Walker Kessler's absence makes, fine. If it's not making the playoffs or making the play-in or the playoff, that's one that's going to be harder to swallow.
And I absolutely agree with that. I say all that I said about feeling pretty good about the Jazz getting to where we thought they would get with Walker Kessler, without him still being able to get there. Like, I would prefer Walker Kessler be on this team. All of us would. But choosing Walker Kessler now probably means that you can't choose Keontae later. So you're probably netting out in the same place, admittedly a different position.
Well, and
we'll see how everything plays out.
I think in the West, in the near future, a more important position.
Yeah, the center is absolutely, and
because of what San Antonio's dealing with down there.
One of the reasons why the Celtics, who overachieved in the regular season to the point where they were a 2 seed, and the point where myself included and a lot of people, the betting places, the sports books, and a lot of the NBA experts had them as the favorites to win the East going into the playoffs. One of the reasons why they got bounced in the first round is because they did not have a viable starting center. All due respect to our guy, Aggie great, Neemias Queta, he was not it when Joel Embiid was able to make his way back into that series, right, from injury, and the Sixers won 3 in a row and ousted them in Game 7. So losing Walker Kessler is a big deal. Jaren Jackson Jr. cannot rebound. For a guy as big as he is and as great a shot blocker as he is, he just doesn't rebound the ball like you'd expect him to be. So Walker being a great rebounder, I think Nurkic is going to give you enough of that. Was a big deal. Is like that's a true 5 to play with a dynamic 4 like Jaren Jackson Jr. Nurkic is going to have to be good enough for now, and they're going to have to find a long-term solution with trading these draft picks or drafting a guy or coming up with a good free agent in the next couple of years. I think they will.
All right, I've got 2 Post Malone Jelly Roll Big Ass Stadium Tour tickets. That's July 28th at Rice-Eccles Stadium. I've got a question for you. If you can answer the trivia question, I'll give you Jelly Roll and Post Malone tickets. We'll talk with Spence Checketts next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, I've got a pair of tickets for you. The Big Ass Stadium Tour 2 is coming to Rice Eccles Stadium July 28th. It'll be Post Malone and Jelly Roll. 2 tickets if you can text the correct answer to this question, 877-353-0700. The official Big 12 preseason all-conference email was sent out today. Media members just made one preseason all-conference team for the offense, for the defense. How many Utes were honored as preseason all-conference? 877-353-0700. How many Utes got preseason all-conference nods in today's email? We're going to be doing 2 full days of Big 12 Media Day coverages from Frisco, Texas. Texas is wonderful this time of year. It's nice and hot. There's World Cup soccer happening right now. Spain, Portugal at the half, 0-0. Our Big 12 Media Day coverage is going to be brought to you by Beer Bar, Murdoch Auto Group, Utah Toyota Dealers, Citron Cooperman, Handy and Handy, Mountain Home Services, Bud Light, Valley Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, and Aladdin Industries. Back-to-back days of full coverage beginning at 8:30 Mountain Time both days. It'll be me. It'll be Spence Checketts. It'll be a rotating cast of characters, coaches, and players from every school in the conference. And, you know, Brett Yormark, we're going to try and get them all. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next. And Spence is actually right here in studio. Hi, Spence.
Do you have a opinion on energy drinks?
I don't drink them.
Neither do I. So I feel like currently I'm on crack.
Okay. All right.
We're going to have a fun show today.
That's a rock star punch in front of you.
I don't know that I've ever had one of these. Okay. So busy morning for your boy, catching a flight tonight.
Yeah.
Had to get a lot of things done. Usually I'm like a 1 cold brew in the morning type coffee drinker.
Uh-huh.
Didn't even have time to do that.
All right.
Got some gas for the car. It's like, you know what? I'm going to try one of these rock
Let me
stars.
see what this is about.
Dude, I'm telling you, I get it. Like, all my Mo bros, all my homies that are Mo's, they love the energy drink.
Uh-huh.
Sibling, like my brother Andrew is ridiculously addicted to them,
Yeah,
for sure.
Sure.
And I usually am like, no, I'm not drinking these. I'm going to have my coffee and be fine. And now I understand why they're pounding these all the time. I am ready to have a good show, dude. How are you?
Great.
Good to see you.
I'm excited for you. Yeah, it's good to be back.
How was your experience?
It was awesome.
I've heard such great things about that.
I'm so lucky to be able to do it. Wimbledon last week. You know, it's one of those things like you watch it on TV all growing up and never think you're going to have an opportunity to do it. And then you're sitting at center court for a couple of matches on a random Thursday. And it's like, wow, can't believe we're here. I got to hold the hawk that keeps pigeons away from Wimbledon.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
His name is Rufus. He's
cool.
an American Harris hawk. All right. And the reason why you don't get pigeon poop or pigeons in general around the Wimbledon grounds is because of Rufus. And he was there at center court when we got there. And we went and talked to the lady who's his handler. And I was just like, that's so cool. Can we take a picture? She's like, yeah, you want to hold him? I'm like, yeah.
That's cool.
So it was really great.
An American hawk?
Yeah.
So the Brits have to even use our hawks.
You're welcome.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Ain't 1776 anymore. Later. Now come begging for our hawk. No, I've never been to Wimbledon because, as our listeners know, the difference between you and I is I'm a man of the people.
Yes.
You live up on the top of the mountain by the Capitol. I'm just down with the rest of the little people. Maybe at some point I'll be able to see a cool thing like you.
When people hear the name Checketts,
Yep.
they think blue collar.
Yep.
When they hear the name O'Connell, they're like silver spoon trust fund guy.
Yep. Wimbledon on one side.
Yeah.
Maybe go to Liberty Park and get a couple of matches in on the other. That's how it goes. Are you ready for our 2 longest days of the year?
Yeah, I am. I'm excited about it.
It's going to be fun.
You know, it serves as kind of an unofficial kickoff of like full football coverage. Gets us an opportunity to have some FaceTime with players all over the conference. BYU is a really fascinating team this year. Utah is a really fascinating team this year. You and I both know Morgan incredibly well, and he gets to take the reins for the first time. This is his destiny It's something he's been building toward for 25 years, and we get to watch it unfold in real time. This is his first media day. I mean, he's going to, by the way, Morgan Scalley is going to win over the conference the way that Deion Sanders did a couple of years ago. He is that charismatic.
But the difference is Morgan will do media.
And his team will win games.
Yes. Will Deion even be there?
Yeah, he'll be there.
Will Texas Tech put a moratorium on Brendan Sorsby questions?
They can't.
I'm aware, but will we be, you know the game these days, will we be gently encouraged to potentially not talk about that?
I don't care to talk to really most of the players about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. The coach, the athletic director, Cody Campbell, who will be down there shaking hands and kissing babies,
Mm-hmm.
they should take this opportunity, probably won't, should take this opportunity to say, look, we'll say what we need to say, we'll answer what we need to answer, and then let's all put it to rest and let's move on after this.
Yeah.
And by the way, all of us would comply.
For sure.
We would all be like, yeah, let's just move on after this because he's not playing anywhere. But explain yourselves. And they should do that. They should take that medicine. I don't think they will, but they should.
The first year you and I went down to maybe this was still Pac-12. Was Deion's first year at Colorado, Colorado's last year in the Pac-12?
Yes.
Because the first year he was in our ecosystem, he didn't talk to anybody. He wouldn't let Shedeur talk to anybody, so he interviewed Shiloh, I believe, right? Didn't you and I interview him?
That was actually at Big 12 Media Days.
That was Big 12, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to think, as I was just kind of doing some prep and looking at some notes, like, have we ever interviewed Deion at a media day? I didn't think so.
No, actually, funny enough, last year at Big 12 Media Days, the national outlets all got him. He did like the podium.
Yeah.
And then BYU TV got him because their whole setup was so giant that everyone just assumed their setup was bigger than Fox's setup and bigger than ESPN setup. So Deion sat down on the BYU TV set.
If you walked in and it wasn't labeled BYU TV, you'd be like, oh, cool. ESPN setup is here.
Yes.
And then, you know what? We'll just leave it there. They've got a really nice setup.
It's great.
Yeah, good for them.
I'm excited to see those guys, Jerem and those guys.
Yeah, nice group of people. And it will be good to, back to Morgan, he'll give us like 25 minutes, you know. As long, Paul Kirk, if you're listening, don't step in. Let us interview our guy. Remember last year when Kirk put a time limit on Bill's interview? We're like, wait, what? Bill Riley has a handler now? Come on, Paul. Dude used to do midday radio show at our station for 20 years. Give us 20 minutes with Bill, please.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Again, it's the Wednesday will be when Utah's featured.
Yeah.
So you'll hear some podium stuff from Utah tomorrow, I think. It'll just be coach, if I'm not mistaken. And then Wednesday we'll dive in deep. We'll get all the players. By the way, there's a significant amount of overkill happening with some of these guest lists for the other teams. Coaches are bringing 6 players.
Oh, wow. Huh.
I'm sorry. We don't need that.
No, we don't.
We want to talk to your 3 best guys at the most.
Should we coordinate outfits?
Yeah.
What are you wearing?
Nothing.
Nude Big 12 Media Day. Well, we'll make headlines.
Let's go.
Okay.
No, I'm just going to wear regular clothes, some jorts, and a cutoff T-shirt.
I got this because it's my travel gear.
Uh-huh.
It's head-to-head seersucker. It's man of the people.
Yeah, okay.
So I will be wearing this the second day because we're flying out after the second day. Tomorrow, I'm thinking slacks.
Okay.
Polo.
All right. Shorts or no shorts? Because it's kind of like it's unprofessional to wear shorts at an official function.
Yeah, we're on the radio.
We're on the radio.
Yeah.
And we're not professional anyway.
Yeah, I would say clothed at a bare minimum, but who really gives a rip? We're on the radio. I got slacks and a polo, head-to-head seersucker. Gonna bring a swimsuit in case things get weird.
Okay.
Odd. Is there a pool at the hotel?
There's got to be. It's a very nice hotel.
You should always just bring a swimsuit in case something happens. Maybe get invited to go hot tubbing with Brock Osweiler or something. Who knows? And then we'll put that argument to bed once and for all. Right?
That's a whole different can of worms we're not going to open up.
I wonder if my arch enemy will be there, though. Because if he is, I'm fronting him.
He's not your arch enemy just because he's taller and better looking than
you.
No,
he's not. Taller, yes. I think the looks, I think we could have a healthy debate.
We'll let you have that debate with yourself.
That's fine.
Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. The next time you hear us, well, the next time you hear me, it will be on Big 12 Media Days tomorrow, starting at 8:30 Mountain Time. We look forward to it. Stay tuned for the drive. Sean O'Connell Show's done. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.